Chapter 551. The storm has passed. The Planning Commission compound in Sanlai was one of the most famous compounds in Beijing in the last century. Many leaders had been born and raised there, and many of them had started their careers there. Although it had gradually disappeared in history, the people who came from there were still active in Beijing, and most of them were in high positions. Jiang Zhili claimed to be Qin Sheng's childhood playmate. Of course, he was also born in the Planning Commission compound, which was a small society with all kinds of facilities, so there were many children there. Jiang Zhili and Qin Sheng used to be in the same group. Their families were close and their parents were close, so they often played together. Of course, there were many other people. Qin Sheng disappeared and his mother passed away. From then on, the Qin family had moved away from the courtyard of the Planning Commission. Since then, they had lost contact with the Qin family. It was not until Qin Chang'an broke out and reached the peak of his life that the Jiang family and the Qin family got in touch again. However, it was not like before. Jiang Zhili had no contact with the Qin family. Some time ago, when Jiang Zhili heard that Qin Sheng had returned to Beijing, he did not quite believe it. Even though someone had given him a photo, he did not think that it was possible for a person who had disappeared for more than 20 years to suddenly reappear, even though the rumors were quite convincing. However, Jiang Zhili didn't expect to see Qin Sheng here today. Qin Sheng looked exactly the same as in the photo. When Qin Sheng sat behind Chang Sini, Jiang Zhili was almost sure that it was him. In addition, he had asked Qin Sheng tentatively just now. From Qin Sheng's behavior, he could tell that this was his childhood playmate. At this moment, Qin Sheng had come to his senses. No wonder he didn't know this man. Jiang Zhili thought he was his childhood playmate in Beijing. This was interesting. A few days ago, he met his childhood playmate in the village, and today, he met his childhood playmate in the Planning Commission compound. He didn't know who he would meet next. Jiang Zhili said cheerfully, "I guess you can't remember what happened when you were a kid for a while. But it's okay. If you don't believe me, you can ask Uncle Qin or Sister Ran later. Then you'll know. I have some impression, but it's definitely not the current you," Qin Sheng replied politely and honestly. Jiang Zhili laughed and said, "I didn't expect that. I thought we would never meet again in this life. I didn't expect that we would have a chance. Life is really unpredictable. Anyway, Qin Sheng, I'm glad to see you again." Jiang Zhili appeared to be very excited, while Qin Sheng was somewhat at a loss. Perhaps it was difficult for him to find the crux of their relationship. However, he still said politely, "Me too. It's just that I've lost too much of my memory." Jiang Zhili said with a smile, "It's okay. You'll remember it slowly. Why don't we find a quiet place to talk?" Qin Sheng agreed with a smile. However, because Chang Sini said that they could not leave the banquet, Qin Sheng could only find a remote place to talk with Jiang Zhili in the hall. Now that he was in a high position in CITIC Bank, he could attend this event today. Of course, he was also qualified to attend this event. By the window of the banquet hall, Qin Sheng and Jiang Zhili did not drink. They just casually talked about the trifles of their childhood. Basically, Jiang Zhili was the one talking and Qin Sheng was the one listening. Qin Sheng casually asked Jiang Zhili why he attended this event. Jiang Zhili replied with a smile. Those who could attend this event were either leaders of the financial system or executives of the two major groups. He belonged to CITIC Bank and was currently working in the Risk Management Committee of the headquarters of CITIC Bank. However, Jiang Zhili said that he was just there for show. He used to work in the headquarters of CITIC Securities and would probably return to the CITIC Group soon. Qin Sheng thought about it and agreed. Since Jiang Zhili was also from the Planning Commission like him, it was obvious that his family background was not simple. Otherwise, how could he be in a high position in the banking system at such a young age? After all, finance was the top of all the industry chains. Jiang Zhili said casually, Your Chang and group attaches great importance to this event and sends such powerful executives to attend. Even you are here. Our CITIC group seems to be a bit low-key. Hearing Jiang Zhili's words, Qin Shing seemed to know something. He was trying to figure out the deeper meaning of this event, so he said on purpose, "Who knows? A simple event is so grand. I don't even know what I'm doing here. I'm just a bystander." Jiang Zhili frowned slightly and asked subconsciously, "You really don't know?" Qin Shing said honestly, "How could I lie to you? Who knew what was going on? If the old man didn't tell him, and Aunt Chang didn't tell him, it would take him forever to figure it out." Jiang Zhili was dubious. If he guessed correctly, this should be the most important event of the Chang and group in the past 6 months. It was not that this event was very important. In fact, compared with the previous events of the Chang and group, it was not worth mentioning at all. After all, the Chang and group was the major shareholder of several big banks and real estate companies, not to mention the insurance industry of the Chang and group. However, this was a special period. Jiang Zhili said meaningfully, "Qin Shing, maybe you don't understand. Maybe you just came back to Beijing and don't know some rules. Some things are actually the most important on the surface, such as today's event. This event is actually very ordinary, but the credit-granting ceremony is not simple. It is not only a ceremony, but also a signal to the outside world. This signal is more important than anything else. This signal is confidence. To be frank, maybe you know better than me what the Chang and group has been going through these days. I'm afraid that everyone is staying away from the Chang and group. However, at this critical moment, the CITIC group reached an agreement with the Chang and group and gave the Chang and group a credit of tens of billions. After hearing this news, people who have a real sense of politics will immediately read the deeper meaning, that is, the Chang and group is safe and sound. Hearing the last sentence, Qin Shing suddenly came to his senses. It seemed that what Jiang Zhili said was true. No wonder so many executives from both sides attended today, and the old man even asked him to attend. This was the real intention. Qin Shing stood there in a daze. Jiang Zhili thought that Qin Shing did not believe what he said, so he continued to explain. If you didn't leave Beijing when you were a child, you would also understand this truth after being immersed in this big environment for more than 20 years. Which group at the top of the pyramid doesn't have a sense of politics? I don't want to talk about the Chang and group, but our CITIC group is a state-owned enterprise. Everything has to follow the rules. If there is no order from the top, do you think we dare to mess around during this period? We can't wait to be as far away from you as possible. If we get involved in any trouble, we may get into trouble. No one can bear this responsibility." At this time, Qin Shing came to his senses and also understood what Jiang Zhili meant. He thanked him sincerely and said, "Zhili, thank you very much. After your explanation, I finally understand." For Jiang Zhili, it was just a piece of cake. He chuckled and said, "It's just a small thing. Don't mention it. You have experienced a lot and seen a lot. You will naturally understand." Qin Shing smiled and nodded. "Anyway, I still have to thank you. I will treat you to dinner some other day." Jiang Zhili took the opportunity to say, "Don't wait for another day. We have been separated for more than 20 years. It is fate that we can meet again today. Tonight, I will be the host. Let's find a place to have a few drinks. Then, we will gather all our old friends. I guess you have forgotten everyone, but when they talk about you, they will be very happy." To be honest, Qin Shing still did not know Jiang Zhili well. In this environment, he had to be wary of everyone. So he did not dare to agree easily. Jiang Zhili did not think so much. At least now, he just felt that it was rare for him to meet his childhood playmates again, and they should celebrate. Besides, Qin Shing's identity was a person that he must win over. So he said, "Don't refuse. Let's take a step back. In the future, you will definitely be in the big circle of Siju City. I think you know better than me what kind of background our courtyard has and how many leaders have come out of it. Those childhood playmates are now on the road of life. In the future, we can help each other, don't you think so? Qin Shing thought for a while, and it seemed to be true. He had to manage his own circle. After hesitating for a while, he said, "Okay, I will listen to you. Let's get together tonight." The party was very simple, so it ended soon. Qin Shing and Jiang Zhili exchanged contact information. Then, they left by car with Chang Sini and the others to go back to the group. When Jiang Zhili returned to the headquarters, a leader asked him to get in his car. In the car, he asked casually, "Zhili, who is the young man you chatted with? I think he has a good relationship with Chang Sini." Jiang Zhili had a good relationship with this leader, who was one of his current backers in the headquarters. Of course, this leader was also his grandfather's student. So he answered frankly, "Uncle Jia, you have a good eye. That young man is not an ordinary person. He is the prince of the Chang'an family, the only son of Qin Chang'an." The middle-aged man, who was called Uncle Jia by Jiang Zhili, said thoughtfully, "I see." When Qin Shing returned to the office, Wei Xiaoxia had just finished her lunch and was resting in Z. Yen Pan followed Qin Shing to the China World Hotel. Qin Shing called his sister as soon as he entered the door. After asking about her normally, he said, "Sister, I went to the China World Hotel to attend an event today. My father asked me to go." Qin Ran, who was about to take a nap, smiled and said, "I know. Xiao Yusin told me." "You are close to her?" Qin Shing was a little surprised. He did not expect that Xiao Yusin would tell his sister about it. It was a little unexpected. Qin Ran said happily, "Not bad. I am quite familiar with the director, so I know our father's movements more or less." "Oh, I see." Qin Shing nodded and said, "Sister, you should know the meaning of this event. Our group and my father are all right? Tut, tut, tut. I didn't expect my brother to be smarter than I thought. He figured it out so quickly." Qin Ran was very surprised. Then she said, "Sort of. It should be fine in a short time. The biggest crisis has passed." Qin Ran said it so casually, but what she had experienced during this period was not something that outsiders could know. Qin Shing felt a sense of helplessness again. The crisis came suddenly, and he did not notice it. The crisis left quietly, and he did not notice it either. It seemed that everything had nothing to do with him. Was the crisis over? Chapter 552. Chapter 553. Death Forget It. After hanging up the phone, Qin Shing stood by the window in a daze, as if all this had nothing to do with him. Originally, he thought that he would have to face the pressure of dark clouds pressing down on the city, but he did not expect that it would be a false alarm in the end. However, this was also good. Nothing was better than something bad. This would also give him more time to adapt to this new environment. If the worst-case scenario really happened, he would probably disappoint a lot of people if he couldn't bear all the pressure and responsibilities. Qin Shing let out a long sigh. It was no wonder that the old man was in a good mood after he came back from Shenzhen. Perhaps it was precisely because of the trip to Shenzhen that he was safe and sound. It was also no wonder that Auntie had gone to Shenzhen again. Perhaps something had happened there and Auntie had gone there on behalf of the Qin family. In fact, Qin Shing did not know that the reason why the Qin family could get through the crisis smoothly this time was that the other side had pressured them a while ago. Qin Chang'an had met with an accident in Beijing, and Qin Ran, Qin Shing, and Qin Jing had met with an accident in Shanghai. This was a bit too much. Therefore, standing under the common interests, some influential big shots had spoken up. However, only Qin Chang'an knew that the crisis was not over yet. The Qin family and the Chang'an faction had enough time to solve the problem. If the situation remained the same, it would be even more difficult. No matter what, he finally had a chance to breathe. Hearing the knock on the door, Qin Shing woke up with a start. Thinking about it, He realized that he had too many things to worry about. This was not within his ability. He would think about it in the future. Yen Pan walked in slowly and said, "Chairman Qin, Boss Liu wants to see you." Hearing that Liu Yang was looking for him, Qin Xing nodded with a smile and said, "Let him in." Before long, Liu Yang walked into Qin Xing's office. He always had a smile on his face. As the most valued young man, Liu Yang's position in the group was not low. It was said that he had roped in a group of young men who could be promoted in the future. The executive director's office is really different. It's much bigger than my office. Liu Yang and Qin Xing were already familiar with each other, so they did not exchange greetings. He knew Qin Xing very well. The more casual you were with him, the better. If you were to put on airs with him, he would always keep a distance from you. Qin Xing narrowed his eyes and reminded him, "Non-executive director." "It's the same." "There's no difference," Liu Yang said with a smile. He wanted to say that he would be the chairman sooner or later, but of course, he couldn't say that. Qin Xing said casually, "If you like, we can exchange places and enjoy different sceneries." "You dare, but I don't." "Then I won't be able to stay in the group anymore." "Ha ha ha, just kidding. How is it? Are you used to it? If you need any help, just let me know. I can't say that I'll tell you everything I know, but I should know what you want to know," Liu Yang said thoughtfully. Of course, he approached Qin Xing with a purpose. Qin Xing motioned for Liu Yang to sit down. Then he asked Yen Pan to make him a cup of tea. After he sat down, he said, "I just started working. Let's get to know each other first. If you really need my help, I won't hesitate to ask." "Okay." Liu Yang nodded silently and then said, "Do you have time tonight? It's my treat. I happen to know that there is a newly opened Cantonese restaurant. I heard from my friend that the food is not bad. Take it as a celebration for your new job. At the same time, I also invited a few colleagues, who are the core of several important departments. You can also learn something you want to know." Since Qin Xing had promised Jiang Zhili at noon, he smiled bitterly and said, "I already have an appointment tonight. How about this weekend or another time?" Liu Yang did not stand on ceremony and replied, "Then this weekend." After Liu Yang left, Qin Xing sat on the sofa and drank tea in a daze. When he called his sister just now, he had already inquired about Jiang Zhili's background. Qin Ran was confused and asked, how did he know about Jiang Zhili? Qin Xing told her what had happened in the China World Hotel at noon. After hearing it, Qin Ran was not very surprised, which meant that the news of Qin Xing's return had spread like wildfire in the circle of Siju City. After all, the Qin family was the kind of family that was closest to the core of power. Qin Ran told her about Jiang Zhili. Indeed, as Jiang Zhili said, he and Qin Xing were childhood playmates. At that time, the two families were close to each other. Their parents also had a good relationship. After all, they were both young people at that time and they could get along well. Later, as Jiang Zhili said, after the Qin family had an accident, they moved out of the courtyard of the Planning Commission. Not long after, their family also left. Therefore, they did not have much contact after that. Qin Ran did not have any impression of Jiang Zhili. After all, he was a few years older than Jiang Zhili and did not have a common circle with him. The Jiang family was only famous in the financial system. However, Jiang Zhili's grandfather and uncle were both in the military system. Qin Xing said that Jiang Zhili would treat them to dinner at night and invited several playmates from the same courtyard. Qin Ran did not have any objection. In the future, Qin Xing would have his own circle of friends when he mingled in this big circle. However, Qin Xing was different from others, who grew up together with them and were bound by feelings or family interests. Apart from being playmates, Qin Xing did not have any contact with them. Because of the status of the Qin family, he had to be more cautious when making friends. She believed that Qin Xing would have a sense of propriety. In the evening, after work, Qin Jing went to Qin Sheng's office first. This girl did not have any scruples about this. Now many people in the group knew that she was Qin Sheng's cousin and the chairman's niece. Most importantly, she was single. Therefore, many rich playboys in Chang'an were eager to make a move on her. Some men who wanted to soar into the sky also wanted to make a move on her. Qin Sheng had promised to take Qin Jing to dinner, but apparently, it was not going to happen today. Qin Jing was very unhappy about this. She knew that in the future, Qin Sheng would have more social activities, and the time he could spend with her would be less and less. After Qin Sheng comforted her, she finally calmed down. Now that the crisis of the Qin family had been resolved, Qin Sheng's safety was no longer a concern. Therefore, Qin Sheng only asked Chang Baji to follow him and the other bodyguards to send Qin Jing home. At the same time, he asked Brother Wu to choose 2 reliable bodyguards to protect Qin Jing in the future. In this way, he could be at ease. Before work, Jiang Zhili had already called Qin Sheng and told him the place to have dinner tonight. It was not a high-end club. After all, they were not ordinary people. Some of them were even in the system. The more trivial it was, the more careful they had to be. Therefore, they chose a private home restaurant that specialized in Shandong cuisine. The master of the chef used to cook at state banquets, so the taste was definitely not bad. Jiang Zhili was more particular about food. When he was young, he was famous for being a foodie. He had robbed a lot of his friends' biscuits and rice crusts. However, the most famous thing about him was that he married a supermodel who gave birth to a precious son for him. Many people were envious of him. Regarding this matter, he had always been very low-key. He was not willing to talk about his wife and never interfered with her freedom. After all, this wife and he had been childhood sweethearts. Both families were old friends. Later, his family intended to matchmake them, and they got along well. Therefore, it became a good story. Before Qin Sheng arrived, Jiang Zhili and the other 4 friends were already sitting in the private room. How could they not drink when they met old friends after so many years? Therefore, Jiang Zhili took 3 bottles of Maotai from his grandfather, which was specially provided by the army. However, he did not intend to go home until he was drunk. It was most interesting to drink and chat. Otherwise, it would be too boring to only care about drinking. Old Jiang, you are really influential. You even invited the young master of the Qin family. I'm afraid that he has long forgotten about us. A man wearing glasses, who was sitting opposite Jiang Zhili, said happily. The young man had a high hairline and looked greasy. Those who did not know him would think that he was 35 or 36 years old. Jiang Zhili said casually, "Lunatic, when Qin Sheng comes later, don't say such sarcastic words. Although he is Qin Chang'an's son, he did not grow up in Beijing. He just returned to Beijing some time ago. There are many things that he doesn't know. So let's not talk about those trivial things." Madman was a little unhappy and said, "Then tell me, what should we talk about? Just drink awkwardly? Tonight, it has nothing to do with anyone's identity. We just want to welcome our childhood friend back to Beijing. Let's reminisce about the old days and get familiar with each other. If you like it, we can get to know each other better. If you don't like it, just treat it as a meeting with an old friend and don't have anything to do with each other in the future." After all, Jiang Zhili was the host, so he had to tell them some things in advance. He was afraid that these people would treat Qin Sheng like those rich playboys in the circle. A man wearing a sweater on the right side of Jiang Zhili said in a deep voice, "How can we not have anything to do with each other? He is Qin Chang'an's son, who dares to ignore him? But to be honest, if I did not hear from you that the storm of the Chang'an group has passed, I really dare not have anything to do with the Qin family," a very handsome man on the left side of Jiang Zhili said. Madman echoed, "That's true. Old Jiang, tell us about it. You know more than us. Let's talk about it another day." "I just heard the rumor," Jiang Zhili said perfunctorily. These people were all close to him, so their family backgrounds were not simple. They were very careful about the matter of the Qin family. The man wearing the sweater added, however, I am afraid that if we take him seriously, he will not take us seriously. To say the least, even if he is not Qin Chang'an's son, his uncle and uncle's husband are still there. Jiang Zhili was not interested in this kind of chat. He directly stopped them and said, let's not talk about this. This is all in the future. At this time, the waiter came in to remind them that the guest they were waiting for had already arrived. This was also what Jiang Zhili had told them in advance. He was afraid that Qin Sheng would suddenly come in while they were chatting, which would be a little embarrassing. On the way, Qin Sheng was full of expectations for this dinner tonight, but he was also afraid of being disappointed. He was looking forward to making up for his missing childhood memories. He was disappointed because he was afraid that these people were similar to those rich playboys he had seen in the past few months. After all, they were no longer children now. They were all heirs who were burdened with responsibilities and pressure. They had to consider everything too much. Chapter 553. Some conjectures this private home cuisine restaurant was not opened in an alley, but in a business district. The chef regarded himself as the inheritor of Shandong cuisine. He wanted everyone to eat delicious and cheap Shandong cuisine, so the price per person was not very high. Naturally, the business was relatively good, and people needed to book in advance to get a private room. In the beginning, Jiang Zhili wanted to choose a quieter place. Anyway, he had been to many clubs like this. Later on, he gave up the idea. That would make him seem too distant. This was just a gathering of ordinary friends, not a business banquet. Chang Baji walked Qin Sheng to the door of the private room and stopped. He was very sensible and did not go in. The smartest thing about Chang Baji was that he had a good sense of propriety. He knew when he should do what and when he should say what. When Qin Sheng followed the waiter in, Jiang Zhili was the first to stand up and greet him. He said with a smile, Qin Sheng, everyone has been waiting for you for a long time. We were just talking about you. Qin Sheng nodded slightly to Jiang Zhili, then saluted and replied, sorry to keep you waiting. Everyone smiled and said that they were fine. In fact, they were quietly sizing up Qin Sheng, their childhood companion who could be said to be full of legendary colors. After all, not everyone would have such an experience. He had an illustrious background but had disappeared for more than 20 years. They thought that he might have died, but he suddenly appeared. The timing of his appearance was so coincidental. In fact, Qin Sheng was also guessing Jiang Zhili's purpose. It was not that Qin Sheng was gauging the heart of a gentleman with his own mean measure. Today, after knowing that the dark cloud hanging over the Qin family for several months had dissipated, he had to think about this matter again. According to Jiang Zhili, he already knew that Qin Sheng was back. If he really cared about this childhood companion, why didn't he find a way to contact him? On the contrary, after knowing that the Qin family was safe, he took the initiative to interact with Qin Sheng. Was this interaction deliberate? If the Qin family was still not safe, would they not have met by chance today? Everything was possible. People's hearts were complicated, not to mention in this world full of interest. Let's cut the crap. If you want to reminisce about the past, let's talk about it while drinking. Although we used to be friends who could pee farther, we haven't contacted each other for more than 20 years after all. So, let me introduce you to each other first. Jiang Zhili was the host tonight, so this matter was naturally handed over to him. Naturally, everyone agreed to Jiang Zhili's suggestion. At the same time, Jiang Zhili's metaphor made everyone smile in understanding, so that they wouldn't feel awkward when they met. Although they were familiar with each other, that was when they were young. At this time, Jiang Zhili pulled Qin Sheng aside and introduced him. I won't say much about him. I've told you a lot just now. Qin Sheng is our childhood friend in the yard of the Planning Commission. I'm afraid you all have heard a lot about him in the past. Qin Sheng has been missing for more than 20 years, which also caused us to not contact each other for more than 20 years. No matter what happened during this period, now that Qin Sheng has returned to Beijing, we should all be grateful. Welcome Qin Sheng back. After Jiang Zhili finished speaking, he took the initiative to applaud. The others also applauded. Regarding the appearance of Qin Sheng, everyone was currently maintaining a wait-and-see attitude. Even though Qin Sheng had the huge background of the Qin family behind him, it was still unknown whether he could integrate into this circle and whether he belonged to the same group of people. Thank you, everyone. I'm very happy to see you again. Although I've forgotten what you used to look like, and I'm afraid you can't recognize me, I'm very glad to see my old friends again, Qin Sheng said politely. After introducing Qin Sheng, Jiang Zhili began to introduce the other friends who came to this party today. The man nicknamed Crazy was called Tang Kai. When he was a child, he was relatively thin and small and was always bullied. Qin Sheng and the others had fought for him several times. Now, he was also working in the system. His family was relatively influential in the diplomatic system, so he directly entered the Ministry of Foreign Affairs after finishing his postgraduate studies in the School of International Relations of Renmin University. Jiang Zhili then introduced the man in the sweater. His name was Song Famwang, who was now working in the Banking Regulatory Commission. He probably knew more about Chang'an. He had a good relationship with Jiang Zhili. After all, they were both in the financial system, so they had more daily contact. Next was the handsome man on Jiang Zhili's left side. His name was Xing Xiaodong. He was the only one present who was not from a central enterprise, but a big boss in the entertainment circle. With the help of his family's relationship in the publicity system, he had an investment company and 2 film and television companies. He also had a stake in many film and television companies. The most important thing was that his brother-in-law was an invisible big boss in the film and television industry. The last one was also a guy who had never spoken tonight. His name was Suwon. He looked ordinary and was not tall. However, he had always been relatively low-key and rarely participated in the circle's gatherings. But everyone knew that this guy was very ambitious. Jiang Zhili was also very surprised that he could come to this party tonight. At that time, he just mentioned it casually and did not expect that he would come. But in the end, he still showed up. However, he was not very close to the others present. He was the kind of person who was considered a friend but not a sworn brother. After all, only his background was comparable to Qin Sheng's. But only Jiang Zhili knew that, so he should be regarded as a person who drifted around the edge of this circle. However, when he was young, he had the best relationship with Qin Sheng. The two of them were inseparable. It was said that after Qin Sheng disappeared, he cried for more than half a month. After all, his best friend had passed away, which was a big blow to him when he was young. So after hearing the news, he agreed to come at once, because he really did not know that Qin Sheng had come back. When Qin Sheng slowly came in just now, he had been restraining his inner excitement. He did not want others to notice his emotional fluctuations. This was what he asked of himself, so he did not speak from beginning to end. When Jiang Zhili introduced Suwon, Suwon took the initiative to reach out and said, "Suwon, our 2 families live in the same building." Qin Sheng just felt that this name was a little familiar, but his memory of Suwon had long been blurred. So when he saw Suwon, his expression was similar to when he saw others. He just shook hands and nodded politely, which made Suwon very disappointed. He had been thinking about Qin Sheng for many years and still kept the photo of him at that time, as well as the gift that Qin Sheng had given him back then. So he thought that Qin Sheng was the same, but after meeting him, he knew that it was not the case. After Jiang Zhili finished introducing Qin Sheng, he let Qin Sheng sit next to him. Xing Xiaodong had already taken the initiative to give this seat to him. Just now, it was just to make it more convenient for them to chat. Jiang Zhili told Qin Sheng that he had ordered everything. They were all the signature dishes of this Shandong restaurant. The taste was definitely in line with the taste, but the environment was relatively ordinary. He asked Qin Sheng what he wanted to add. Qin Sheng smiled and said that there was no need. He never had any requirements for food. Tonight, he mainly came to meet everyone. The waiter soon served the cold dishes. Jiang Zhili asked them to distribute the wine, then looked at Qin Sheng and said, "Qin Sheng, since you're so happy tonight, it should be okay to drink a little, right?" Qin Sheng replied with a smile, "It's okay to drink a little. I'm just afraid that you guys will make me drunk. I'm afraid that my alcohol tolerance is not as good as yours." "Ha ha, then let's not go overboard," Jiang Zhili said cheerfully. Then, he asked Su Wen, "Old Su, I know that you rarely drink. Do you want to drink a little tonight?" Jiang Zhili was very careful in front of Su Wen. He knew that Su Wen didn't think much of his friends. After all, his circle didn't belong to this circle. Although they were all bright and beautiful hedonistic children in the eyes of outsiders, hedonistic children were also divided into backgrounds and levels. Su Wen was at least one level higher than them. Su Wen's answer was very simple. 2 words, drink a little. At the beginning, the atmosphere was not lively. Jiang Zhili took the initiative to lead the rhythm. Although Madman was more lively when Qin Sheng came, he did not talk much after Qin Sheng really came. Jiang Zhili took the initiative to talk about his childhood. The others chimed in with him. It was not until then that Qin Sheng knew that Su Wen had been the closest to him in the past. The way he looked at Su Wen was more amiable, but that was all. It had been more than 20 years. What had happened to the world? Not to mention the children who used to wear open crotch pants. They had long become the same as those adults. After a few glasses of wine, the atmosphere became more lively. One after another, they began to call each other brothers. After all, there was a layer of relationship in the past. These people were not like Qin Sheng's childhood playmates in the village. After all, the gap between the playmates in the village and Qin Sheng was relatively big, so they naturally felt more inferior and alienated. However, these people were different. They might be more restrained in the beginning, but after chatting, there were no taboos. After all, they were at the same level. After talking about some interesting childhood stories, Madman asked with a smile, "Qin Sheng, are you married now?" "Not yet." "Don't tell me you are all married?" Qin Sheng replied with a smile. The others said happily that except for Xing Xiaodong, who was reluctant to leave the flowers, everyone else had indeed been married. Of course, they also talked about Jiang Zhili's wife. Qin Sheng was very surprised. He did not expect that Jiang Zhili's wife was actually the supermodel he used to like very much. This made Qin Sheng a little envious. Madman followed up and asked, "Then you must have a girlfriend, right?" "Yes, if I don't have a girlfriend, others will doubt my sexual orientation," Qin Sheng said half-jokingly. Madman laughed and said, "Could it be our goddess Song Ryu? I've heard from many people that your relationship with Song Ryu is quite ambiguous. If you can win our goddess' heart, you'll be so proud." Madman laughed. At this time, Song Fangwang also echoed, "I seem to have heard this from others." "Qin Sheng, tell us old friends about it. Many people chased after Song Ryu but failed. I didn't expect that you, a latecomer, would surpass her." Chapter 554. Chapter 555. Chapter 555 So powerful? Since Qin Sheng returned to the Qin family, Qin Ran had been reminding Qin Sheng to be more careful when dealing with these rich playboys. Whether they were old friends or new friends, he had to be careful. Because Qin Sheng had never been in this circle, he naturally did not know how shallow the water was. With such an identity, he was likely to become someone else's prey. Qin Sheng originally thought that he might have thought too much at today's gathering. It was not until Madman talked about Song Ryu that Qin Sheng was sure that he did not think too much, because these people had already given themselves away. That was, they had long known that he was back. As for how they knew, Qin Sheng did not care, but they must have secretly inquired about it. But why did they never take the initiative to look for him? Was it because they had not contacted each other for more than 20 years, and taking the initiative to contact him would make others doubt their motives? Or was it because the Qin family was in danger, so they took the initiative to stay away and did not want to be involved? Of course, if that was the case, Qin Sheng could understand. After all, their identity inevitably made them think this way. But Qin Sheng's expectations for them were naturally greatly reduced. However, they had not contacted each other for more than 20 years. What was there to look forward to from the emotional foundation established by a few years old? To say the least, if it was not because of Qin Sheng's identity, if it were an ordinary person, who would care about you? They would have completely forgotten about you. Therefore, Qin Sheng's mood instantly fell to the bottom. He squinted his eyes and smiled. Who did you hear this from? The people present were all smart people who often chatted happily with leaders and big shot. The environment they were in also made them very good at observing people's words and expressions. Therefore, Qin Sheng's expression and tone at this moment made everyone realize that this topic caused by the madman made Qin Sheng very unhappy. The atmosphere instantly became awkward. Everyone looked at each other and realized that they had talked too much. Some of them might have a natural sense of superiority. After all, they grew up in Siju City, unlike Qin Sheng who had been wandering outside and only came back recently. However, they seemed to have forgotten that among these people present, Qin Sheng's identity was the most prominent and had the most powerful background. He was not someone they could compare with at all. Only Suwon could be at the same level as him. Jiang Zhili, who realized that something was wrong, quickly eased the atmosphere. Qin Sheng, don't take it seriously. Madman usually likes to joke. He doesn't mean anything else. Qin Sheng did not pay attention to Jiang Zhili. It was not that he did not want to give face to Jiang Zhili, the host, but he really wanted to get to the bottom of it. This was not a small matter. What? Why wouldn't I dare to say it? Qin Sheng seemed to say it casually, but everyone knew that Qin Sheng was serious. When Qin Sheng was serious, the others realized that they had somewhat underestimated Qin Sheng. Madman smiled awkwardly and replied, I also heard it from others. It seems that a friend sitting at the table next to me said it at a party. Qin Sheng really wanted to say, that means you have long known the news of my return, but he did not say it out loud. Otherwise, the dinner would not go on. As a result, Qin Sheng laughed out loud and said, Look at how nervous you are. I just asked casually. Ryu and I are just ordinary friends. If it weren't for the fact that our families are old friends, do you think I would know the Great Goddess song? Ha 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 ha, I knew it. How could Qin Sheng be angry? But to be honest, Qin Sheng, if you can really marry the Great Goddess song, you will really make us proud. Xing Xiaodong echoed. He and Jiang Zhili had been leading the atmosphere tonight, talking about a lot of trivial and interesting things in the entertainment circle. Jiang Zhili did not want to delve further into this topic, so he stopped them in a hurry and said, All right, let's not talk about this. Qin Sheng already has a girlfriend. You old men who are already married, stop thinking about the Great Goddess song. Let's drink. After Jiang Zhili finished speaking, he raised his glass. Everyone followed him and raised their glasses. This topic was over. However, Qin Sheng was a little confused. Where on earth did the news come from? Who said that he had an ambiguous relationship with Song Ryu? The dinner went on, but it seemed that because of this small matter, the atmosphere was a little bit awkward. Qin Sheng did not say anything more. When a few bottles of wine were drunk, the dinner came to an end. Originally, Jiang Zhili wanted to continue with the next round, but now it seemed that it was obviously not suitable. Everyone first sent Qin Sheng to the car, politely greeted and waved goodbye. When Qin Shing got in the car, Jiang Zhili said in a low voice, "If they said something wrong, don't take it too seriously. Maybe they were too happy to see you." "It's okay. I'm not a stingy person," Qin Shing said casually. Jiang Zhili patted Qin Shing's shoulder gently and said, "Okay, we'll contact each other later. Be careful on the road." Everyone watched Qin Shing leave, but the look in their eyes was meaningful. Song Fangwang first sighed and said, "The first young Master Qin is still full of confidence, far beyond us. Although he has been away from this circle for more than 20 years, it is far from as simple as we think." "Lao Feng, if your family had such a strong background and inside information, you would also be like this," Xing Xiaodong responded with a smile. He really envied Qin Shing's background. With such a strong background, he could succeed in whatever he wanted to do. Madman, who was angrily rebuked by Qin Shing tonight, said sarcastically, "I see it clearly. It's impossible for us to become friends with the first young Master Qin. We can't afford to be friends with him." Jiang Zhili said impatiently, "You guys, can you not think so much? I've already said that tonight is just to catch up and meet our childhood friends, nothing else. If you guys have a purpose from the beginning, then I really don't think it's necessary for you to come tonight." No matter what, Jiang Zhili had to say so, because other than the others, Su Wen had not left yet. He could be sure that tonight's gathering had further lowered Su Wen's evaluation of them as friends. In the future, they would definitely be further apart. If that was really the case, it would really be a little bit of a loss. Su Wen, who had been silent, said at this time, "I still have some work to do, I'll leave first." Jiang Zhili said helplessly, "It's still early. I was still thinking of finding another place to drink tea and drink wine. We haven't seen each other for a long time, let's have a chat." Another day. Su Wen rejected very tactfully, but it was obvious that his tone was a little disdainful. He was a proud person and had always had ideals and ambitions, so he actually did not have many like-minded friends, and he did not want to be in the same boat as most people. Before Jiang Zhili could say anything, Madman took the lead to send him off. "Okay, you can leave first if you have something to do. Let's meet again if there's a chance." Su Wen did not say anything and went straight to the side of the road to hail a taxi. He did not drive over tonight because he had already planned to drink. Seeing his childhood best playmate again, Su Wen's impression was neither good nor bad. He was not as excited as he had imagined, nor was he as disappointed as he had imagined. However, he knew that their interaction had just begun. However, if he really felt that they were not the same kind of people, Su Wen would completely cut off contact with him. He would not let anyone stop him from moving forward. After Su Wen left, the hot-tempered madman snorted coldly. "What are you pretending for? Look, did you see that? He doesn't want to play with us at all. Don't force him in the future." Song Fangwang said thoughtfully, "Madman, don't say that. Su Wen has always been like this." Xing Xiaodong let out a long sigh and said, "All right, we parted on bad terms. Let's go back to our own homes and find our own mothers. I don't know who you're going to find this time, who knows how many girls you've ruined." Song Fangwang scolded angrily. Jiang Zhili looked at these childhood friends and could only sigh helplessly. Some of them really went further and further, while some of them were still in the same place, so the end was almost visible now. On the way back to the Sihiyuan, Qin Shing took the initiative to call his sister and told her about the gathering tonight. This was because Qin Ran had told Qin Shing on the phone at noon that he would tell her after he was done. She also wanted to know what these childhood friends' attitudes towards Qin Shing was now. "Su Wen is here too?" Qin Ran was a little surprised. Among these people tonight, only Su Wen had contact with her. In the past, he often called her to ask about Qin Shing, but later on, he was busy with work, so their contact became less and less. Qin Shing asked curiously, "Sister, do you know him?" "How could I not know? When we were young, you and Suwon had the best relationship. It could be said that you were in the same boat. Suwon often stayed at our house, and you often slept at Suwon's house. Whenever there was something delicious or fun, you would think of each other first. Later, after you were taken away by Grandpa, Suwon was sad for a long time. A few years ago, he would ask me if I had any news about you. But later on, we contacted less. I have a good impression of Suwon. As for the others, I have long forgotten, Qin Ran said truthfully. Qin Xing recalled the gathering tonight and muttered to himself, "No wonder I always felt that the way he looked at me was different from the way others looked at me. So that's why. But tonight, he didn't talk much and didn't communicate much with me." Suwon's character is like that. He doesn't talk much. But you can say that Suwon is the most promising one among your group. Now he is working in the central office. Speaking of Suwon, Qin Ran had a lot to say. So she was very surprised that Suwon could come tonight. After all, Suwon was not on the same level as the others. Qin Sheng was very shocked. So powerful? What do you think? Qin Ran was not surprised by Qin Sheng's shock. After all, those who could enter the central office were not ordinary people. Moreover, Suwon was the kind of person who had been entrusted with high hope. As long as he was given enough time, he would definitely soar to the sky. However, there were still some things that Qin Sheng did not quite understand. He could not tell what it was, but he just felt that something was wrong. However, Qin Sheng was really shocked that Suwon was working in the central office. It was absolutely different for ordinary people and rich playboys to enter the central office, just like he knew about Song Ryu's job. After talking about these things, Qin Sheng asked Qin Ran when she would be back. Qin Ran said that she would be back when she missed her, and then she hung up. Chapter 555. I'm old. Many things were natural laws. For example, the closer one was to the center of power, the higher one's starting point would be. This was an indisputable fact. Suwon, who worked in the central office, and Jiang Zhili, who worked in CITIC, would definitely have different resumes and promotion paths. Naturally, their future heights would also be different. Therefore, although the others present did not know Suwon's background, they still respected him on the surface. Why could Suwon enter the central office, but not the others? Firstly, it was possible that everyone chose a different path in life. Suwon chose the most difficult path, and the price he had to pay and the pressure he had to bear were definitely different. Jiang Zhili and the others chose a relatively easy path in life, such as Xing Xiaodong's path, where they wantonly enjoyed a great life. Secondly, it was the problem of personal ability. People were divided into different levels. Some people's ability could only do ordinary jobs, while others could become elites and create greater value. Finally, it was the problem of family background and strength. In these important ministries, everyone knew the effect of entering and coming out with gold plating. Compared to these rich playboys, it might be easier for ordinary people to enter, but after coming out, these rich playboys were definitely different from ordinary people. After sorting out these things, Qin Sheng's impression of Suwon gradually deepened. This man who was so low-key that people ignored him seemed to be indeed not simple. He could not see it now, but in another 3 to 5 years, he would be similar to Song Husheng. At this time, Qin Sheng remembered that Suwon had sent him a text message. After opening the message, it was a very simple but thought-provoking sentence. Don't treat everyone as a friend, not everyone would treat you as a friend. This circle only recognized family background and personal ability, interests were the most important. Why did Suwon send this text message? Because he really treated Qin Sheng as a friend and really cared about the unforgettable feelings from his childhood. Later on, he never made a friend like Qin Sheng again, so he missed himself at that time. It was the first time Qin Sheng had returned to the capital and entered this big circle of ups and downs. Suwon was afraid that he would be confused by the vanity and illusion in front of him and take some pitiful detours. There were too many lessons from the past, and too many people around him had lost themselves. After all, Qin Shing's background was there for all to see. Many people would definitely take the initiative to befriend him. However, Qin Shing's identity and the Qin family situation meant that Qin Shing could not take the wrong path. Otherwise, there would be too many consequences. To be honest, Qin Shing was very touched when he saw this text message. Although he did not talk much with Suwon just now and did not know about his relationship with Suwon in the past, he could feel that Suwon really took him, his childhood playmate, seriously. When Qin Shing returned to the Qin family Sihyuan, the old man had already returned. These days, the old man came back earlier than usual. Yaya was working overtime in her room. She, who had changed her working environment and position, wanted to blend in faster. The old man, who was drinking tea in the living room, saw Qin Shing coming back and smelled the alcohol on him. He said casually, "Did you drink? It's better to drink less in the future and reduce unnecessary social interactions." Qin Shing remembered that last time, it was Qin Shing who told Qin Chang'an to drink less alcohol and take care of his health. This time, he did not expect that it would be Qin Chang'an who told Qin Shing so. Of course, Qin Shing knew what Qin Chang'an was implying. After his identity changed, some people approached him with a purpose. It was not as simple as it used to be. Qin Shing nodded silently and said, "Yes, I met a childhood friend from the Planning Commission today." Qin Chang'an had never wanted to touch the memory of the Planning Commission. To be exact, he did not want to touch the memory of Zhu Qinghuan. Some people said that time could change everything. However, for some people, time could only fade some memories, but would never forget them. "Can you still drink? Drink with me?" Qin Chang'an took the initiative to say. It seemed that this was the first time that Qin Chang'an asked Qin Shing to drink with him in the middle of the night. In the life of most men or boys, it was absolutely important to be able to sit down and drink and chat with their father like friends. That was because many boys did not have a good relationship with their fathers. A mother's love was kind, while a father's love was strict. When this day came, it was when the father felt that he had really grown up, and also when the father felt that he was old. It was the inheritance of a generation, and it was the beginning of responsibility and pressure. "Okay." Qin Shing nodded slightly. Qin Chang'an chose to drink in the yard outside. After all, the weather was good recently. It was more casual and comfortable to drink in this way, just like how Qin Shing drank with Zhang Yong last night. However, of course, the atmosphere was different. The wine was not beer, but white wine. It was not Maotai or Wuliangye, but Red Star Erguotu, which could be bought on the street. Gongsun hurriedly arranged to prepare 2 meat dishes and 2 vegetable dishes. Of course, he knew what Qin Chang'an liked to eat when he drank, and fried peanuts were definitely a must. After the wine and dishes were all served, Qin Chang'an held up his glass and said to Qin Shing lovingly, but there was still a lot of tiredness and pressure in his eyes. It was rare for Qin Chang'an to be in such a mood. He felt that the wine was much better than usual. He looked up and saw that the light in Yaya's room was still on. He said gently, "It's so late and this girl is still working. She is exactly the same as your sister. I always think that girls should be raised well and enjoy a good and brilliant life. I earn so much money to realize the value of my life and my ideals, but I let you spend it. You are good, not only saving money for me but also making money for me." Qin Shing laughed and said, "Shouldn't you be happy? If we are all prodigals, you will have a headache by then." Qin Chang'an said with a smile, "If you are all prodigals, that's not bad. I won't have so much trouble. Our family is so rich. Even if you want to squander, it will take you at least a few years. If you are not good at squandering, it will take you at least 10 or 20 years." The relationship between the father and son was getting better and better. Some time ago they ran in the morning and ate breakfast together. Today they sat down to drink and talk. Although their relationship had not normalized, some estrangement was slowly dissolving. Some time ago, you must have been under a lot of pressure, right? Qin Shing asked casually. Then he smiled and filled the old man's glass with wine. Qin Chang'an grabbed a few peanuts with his hands and ate them slowly. He looked at Qin Shing and smiled without saying anything. Gong Sun had been standing not far away, watching over the father and son who were having a difficult time drinking and chatting merrily. There was no one else in the courtyard, giving them absolute time to be alone. Only behind a window on the second floor, there was a beautiful woman in pajamas peeping. Qin Chang'an squinted and asked, "What do you want to ask?" "You don't have to hide it in front of me." "The storm is over?" Qin Shing asked carefully. It was not up to others to say it. Only Qin Chang'an knew it better than anyone else. Qin Chang'an frowned slightly and said with a smile, "Who did you hear it from?" "I heard it from others, including my sister," Qin Shing said honestly. He did not intend to hide anything. Anyway, he wanted to get the most accurate information from the old man, which would be useful for many things he would do next. Qin Chang'an picked up the glass and took a sip. He looked up at the night sky in the distance and said, "If the storm is over so easily, it will not be a storm. Many things are not as simple as ordinary people think. I, Qin Chang'an, am not a god. The storm will be over if I say so. It is a challenge to the political system and disregard it." Qin Shing was very optimistic at first. However, after hearing what Qin Chang'an said, he felt like a bucket of cold water was poured on him instantly. Obviously, things were not as simple as he, his sister, and Jiang Zhili thought. Qin Shing thought about it carefully and found it seemed to be true. As the old professor from Tsinghua University of Economics and Management said last time, the main business of the Chang department and some of the things they had done previously had touched the red line of the policy. In addition, they did not turn around in time, so there were problems. If something happened and nothing happened, it would be too childish. Therefore, things were far from that simple. Qin Shing fell silent and began to worry about the situation of the Qin family and the old man again. Qin Chang'an smiled and explained to Qin Shing, "Qin Shing, you don't have to worry so much. Even if something happened to the Qin family and the Chang department, it will not happen so easily. Many things can be turned around, but it depends on what kind of price we have to pay. Look at those large private enterprises in the past 2 years, there were many rumors that something happened to them. In the end, only 1 or 2 of them got into trouble, and those 1 or 2 really challenged the bottom line. Our Qin family has not reached that point yet." He also hoped that Qin Shing would not be so worried. After all, Qin Shing did not understand the rules of the game, just like most of the people who followed the flow of the crowd. Qin Chang'an continued, "The storm is not over. It just gives us a chance to breathe. What we need most now is time. As long as we have enough time, we can turn around and get back on the right track. At that time, the sky will be clear after the rain." Qin Chang'an did not say that the time to breathe was earned by what had happened that night. Some people's superfluous actions had given the Qin family a chance. Fortunately, the Qin family did not pay too high a price. Qin Chang'an said, "However, Qin Shing, you don't have to worry about these things. Now that you have entered the Chang department, what you should do is to inherit everything of the Qin family slowly. Don't wait for the worst result, when you can't face the pressure of Mount Tai. After all, at that time, I may not be able to do that, and I am old." Speaking of these things, Qin Chang'an sounded a little sad. Qin Shing was silent. Although some things did not happen, he really did not want to see that happen. Qin Chang'an poured himself another glass of wine, raised his head and drank it. He said calmly, "Qin Shing, you are not alone anymore. If I really die one day, you should protect your sister, Yaya, and your aunt, because you are the only man in the Qin family." Chapter 556. Chapter 557. Many things. My lower back disease recurred. I'm receiving treatment recently. If Jiang Zhili's explanation during the day helped Qin Sheng to have a basic understanding of some rules, then the old man's words at night made Qin Sheng have a deeper contact with the whole political system and some rules. Obviously, Jiang Zhili only knew a little more than most ordinary people. However, as a person involved in the ups and downs of this big circle for so many years, the old man knew better than anyone else. He made Qin Sheng understand more clearly that these things were not that simple. In the end, Qin Sheng heard the old man sigh that he was already old and said that if he was gone one day, he should take good care of his sister, which made Qin Sheng sigh with emotion. However, Qin Sheng did not say anything pretentious. For example, if you are still energetic, how could you die? He was not a person who would say such pretentious words, because he knew that anything could happen. For example, this storm, which only gave him time to breathe, might just be a half-time break, and the worst result might really happen. For example, if something happened to the old man. After all, there were internal and external troubles now. Many people probably hoped that the old man would die suddenly. In that case, the third party would benefit from it. Moreover, such a thing happened a while ago. Therefore, anything could happen. It was useless for Qin Sheng to say anything. The only thing he needed to do was to grow up quickly and carry the Qin family's banner. Qin Sheng was Qin Chang'an's only son. Of course, Qin Chang'an had high hopes for him. Like most fathers, Qin Chang'an hoped that Qin Sheng would become stronger and stronger, so that he would not be defeated by anyone. At the same time, Qin Chang'an did not want Qin Sheng to be too tired. After all, Qin Sheng was his son. As a result, sometimes Qin Chang'an was also in a dilemma. Some things could not have the best of both worlds. As a result, he could only force Qin Sheng to grow up. After all, he was the man of the Qin family. This was his responsibility and obligation. One day, Qin Sheng would understand his love for him. Qin Sheng already knew what he wanted to know. He also understood what he had to do next. Qin Chang'an had also said what he wanted to say. He would still say the same thing. Grow up quickly. He was afraid that he would not be able to hold on for long. After chatting about some trivial matters, Qin Chang'an and Qin Sheng went back to their respective rooms to rest. Lying on the bed, Qin Sheng recalled what Qin Chang'an had said. Why did the Qin family get a chance to breathe? Could it be that the things that had happened some time ago, such as the accident that happened to the three of them in Shanghai and the accident that happened to Qin Chang'an in the suburbs of the capital city, had angered some big shots behind the Qin family and given them a chance to breathe? Qin Sheng let out a long sigh. It was really not that simple. Early in the morning, Qin Sheng did not go to the company. He was going to Tsinghua University to attend classes today. It was already April, and there were only a few classes left. Then, these second-generation playboys would graduate. However, their lives had just begun, and there would be more setbacks waiting for them in the future. When Qin Sheng finished jogging in the gym, the old man and Ye had already gone to work. After breakfast, he went to the School of Economics and Management of Tsinghua University with Chang Baji. On the way to Tsinghua University, Xiao Yusen called him to ask why he did not come to the company today. He told her that he had to go to class today, and had already informed Yen Pan and the rest. Xiao Yusen smiled and said that she really missed the college life. She had graduated many years ago. She studied at Renmin University and later went to the United States to study and so on. After talking about these trivial things, Xiao Yusen told Qin Sheng that the team he wanted was ready. There were a total of 5 people, all of whom were quite capable core backbones in the charity foundation. They could set off for Xi'an at any time. Qin Sheng told Xiao Yusen Zhang Yong's phone number, and asked them to contact Zhang Yong to confirm when they would return to Xi'an. Then he told Xiao Yusen that this was a private matter, so all the expenses would be borne by him. At the same time, he asked Xiao Yusen to give him a bank account number and he would transfer the 1 million he had prepared to her. As for how to operate, Xiao Yusen would be responsible for it. After all, Qin Xing did not know these things. Xiao Yusen smiled and said that these things could be left to her. She would never let Qin Xing worry about it. From the fact that Qin Xing directly handed 1 million to her, it could be seen that he trusted her very much. Therefore, Xiao Yusen was in a good mood. In the School of Economics and Management of Tsinghua University, the 2 classes in the morning were mainly about the war without gunpowder in the new era, the financial war and the trade war. This was also the problem that every country and enterprise had to face at the moment, so almost no one asked for leave. After all, the 2 main lecturers today were close to the core of power and the think tanks in policymaking. It could be seen that the School of Economics and Management had spent a lot of effort to invite them to teach. The 2 classes in the afternoon were going out for activities. They went to the central bank to visit and learn, and then went to the Wadayaku Finance School for exchange and learning. Qin Xing heard from Han Su that the rest of the classes were basically going out for exchange and learning. Before the class, Qin Xing looked at Han Su next to him and asked casually, "Is there any movement from Shueku recently? Damn, this guy is really cunning." He deliberately released a smoke bomb, saying that the news was a rumor. He must catch the person behind the scenes who framed him this time and then make them pay the price. And several of his friends cooperated and said that he was on a business trip in Hong Kong recently, so not many people believed it, Han Su said while swearing. Sure enough, he had underestimated this group of people. Qin Xing said faintly, "Forget it. This matter is over. Don't make trouble. Anyway, even if he knows that the person behind the scenes is me, he will not dare to take revenge recently." "Why are you suddenly so confident?" Han Su was somewhat puzzled. Of course, he did not know those things about the Qin family. Moreover, Han Su did not care about those things. After all, he was not a person like Wei Li. Qin Xing did not explain, but just told him to hurry up and go to class. The 2 lecturers today were not ordinary people. They were at the level of think tank. Any solid information about finance and trade would be of great help to the next strategy of any company. Han Su also became serious. Even if he did not understand what they meant, he could remember it later and tell his father at home. Then this trip would not be in vain. At home, his father would only scold him for being a wastrel. During the break in the middle of the class, Wei Li ran over again and said happily, "The things at home should be sorted out, right?" His words obviously meant something. Sometimes, Qin Xing really admired Wei Li. This guy was the star and social butterfly of this advanced study class. He maintained a good relationship with each small circle. Although Wei Li's attitude was relatively low in front of him, when Wei Li chatted with others, he had a good sense of propriety. Qin Xing seemed to be teasing him as he said, "What do you know, Wei Li? You have a lot of information channels." Wei Li said disapprovingly, "I just happened to hear my friends talking about it. It can be regarded as a verification to you. After all, this matter affects the nerves of many people. I am just gossiping. Do you help me keep an eye on Hangzhou?" Qin Xing did not want to delve into that topic, nor did he give Wei Li a precise answer. This kind of ambiguous attitude was the most interesting. Wei Li said solemnly, "You can rest assured. I am keeping an eye on that side. If you want related information about anyone, I can give them to you immediately." Of course, Wei Li was very clear that Qin Xing had experienced the biggest setback in the first half of his life in Hangzhou. How could he swallow it? Sooner or later, he had to go back to Hangzhou to take revenge. As long as Qin Xing went back to Hangzhou to take revenge, as the local tyrant in Hangzhou, he could provide Qin Xing with a lot of resources, which was the key to further his relationship with Qin Xing. Wei Li was very clear that he and Qin Xing could not become brothers. However, under the premise of interests, They could become very good partners. After all, they knew each other very well. Moreover, he had contacted Qin Xing for the sake of interest. Qin Xing said thoughtfully, "That's not necessary. I will call you when I need it. You can continue to help me keep an eye on them." What Qin Xing considered was that during this period, the Qin family had a chance to take a breather. He could take this time to deal with all the previous grievances. In this way, he could devote himself to the affairs of the Qin family and the group in the future. He would not be distracted anymore. Moreover, Qin Xing did not want those people to be free and unfettered for too long. After all, he had promised to take revenge for Gu Qingyang. Wei Li smiled and nodded. "You can rest assured." Qin Xing suddenly thought of the Chao family and asked subconsciously, "By the way, how is the Chao family now?" Wei Li was not surprised that Qin Xing would ask about the Chao family. After all, Qin Xing used to work for the Chao family. He said honestly, "After you left, Chowda was suppressed by several tycoons again. Recently, he has been very low-key and has not made any move." Qin Xing did not say anything. He was thinking about the Chao family. It seemed that the old man did not intend to help them. Did the old man want him to deal with the previous things? Or did the old man have no time to deal with these things recently? It was impossible for Chowda to disturb him for these things. After all, Chowda felt somewhat guilty about what had happened to him. Therefore, Qin Xing had not contacted the Chao family. After thinking about it, it seemed that he had not done what he had promised Qing. Uncle Jiang was still wandering abroad and did not know when he would come back. It seemed that he had a lot of things to do. Qin Xing could not help but feel a little headache. After the 2 classes in the morning, Qin Xing and Han Su casually had lunch in the cafeteria of Tsinghua University. At this time, there was nothing to do. Han Su said that they would find a place to drink tea. Qin Xing was not in the mood to go out. Thinking that Zhang Yong's sister was also in Tsinghua University last time and he had promised Zhang Yong to take care of that little girl, Qin Xing temporarily decided to see that girl. Qin Xing told Han Su that he was going to see a sister. Han Su deliberately made a few jokes, saying that he might also have a lover in Tsinghua University. Qin Xing almost beat this guy up. He explained that she was a neighbor's child when he lived in Xi'an. A few days ago, he learned that she was also in Tsinghua University. Zhang Yong's sister was called Zhang Ying. Qin Xing did not have many memories of this girl. He only saw her a few times when he went back to the village to visit his grandfather when he grew up. After all, he did not go back often. Zhang Yong had told Qin Xing that Zhang Ying was in the English department of the School of Humanities. At that time, she had also applied for the Business Administration Department of the School of Economics and Management. Later, she was transferred to the English department. To be honest, it was very difficult to enter Tsinghua University. Chapter 557. A quarrel in the dormitory. After Zhang Yong returned from the Sihiyuan of the Qin family that morning, he called his sister and told her what had happened recently. They were owed wages by Boss Chow. They were not only beaten but also locked up in the police station. In the end, the villagers contacted Qin Xing, who was doing big things in Beijing, to get them out. Zhang Yong also told his sister what had happened after that. He told her how Qin Xing got the wages owed, how he made Boss Chow pay hundreds of thousands more, and how Qin Xing invited him to his home in Beijing. When talking about the Sihiyuan of the Qin family, Zhang Yong was still uneasy. He said that the courtyard was too luxurious and there were many bodyguards and servants. After drinking with Qin Xing, he lay on the white and soft big bed at night. He was so excited that he couldn't fall asleep. He was afraid that he would dirty the bedsheet, so he took a bath for half an hour and so on. Anyway, he just told his sister that Grandpa Qin's grandson was doing very well now and that his family was very rich. Of course, he also told his sister what Qin Xing asked him to do, as well as the arrangements for him in the future and so on. Zhang Yong thought that his sister, who was admitted into Tsinghua University, must be much smarter than him, so he wanted his sister to help him analyze what he should do and so on. In the past, whenever he had problems, it was his sister who helped him analyze. After hearing that, Zhang Ying felt it was a little unbelievable, but she believed what her brother said. After all, her brother had never lied to her. She was very familiar with Grandpa Qin. When she was little, whenever her mother cooked good food, she would send some to Grandpa Qin. Grandpa Qin often praised her that she would be successful in the future. As for Qin Xing, she didn't remember much, because Grandpa Qin didn't come back to the village many times after he grew up. She only saw him a few times occasionally. Zhang Ying also knew that after Grandpa Qin passed away, his grandson had never come back to the village and had no contact with the villagers. Everyone thought that he had gone missing. But Zhang Ying wasn't surprised, because she had an intuition since she was little that neither Grandpa Qin nor his grandson belonged to the village. They always gave people a feeling that they didn't belong to the village. When Zhang Ying returned home during the spring festival, she happened to go to her uncle's house in the neighboring village with her brother that day, so she missed the scene of Qin Xing's return. Later, she heard from the villagers that it was quite successful. However, she did not expect that her brother would meet Qin Xing in Beijing this time. Not only did Zhang Ying get her brother's salary back, but he also handed over such an important matter to her brother, especially to arrange another job for her brother, which made Zhang Ying very excited. So on the phone, Zhang Ying told her brother, "Brother, you must cherish this opportunity. She trusts you so much, so you must do it well and not let her down. Only then will she trust you more in the future." However, Zhang Yong was too excited at that time and forgot to tell her that Qin Xing was also studying at the School of Economics and Management of Tsinghua University recently. He also said that he would visit her when he was free and that he could look for her directly if there was anything in the future. Therefore, Zhang Ying was very surprised when she received Qin Xing's call. She had just finished her meal and was reviewing the 2 classes in the afternoon in the dormitory. She had always been very serious in Xueshan, because she was very clear that for children from poor families, studying was the only opportunity to change their fate, and the college entrance examination was the most convenient way to success. Qin Xing was very surprised. He thought that Zhang Yong had already told him, but Zhang Yong did not. He explained to Zhang Ying with a smile, saying that he and his friends happened to be free at this time, so they bought some fruits and came to visit her. They had arrived at the dormitory building and did not know which one she was from. Zhang Ying hurriedly said which district and which building she was from and would wait for him downstairs in a while. She thanked him several times and so on, which made Qin Xing feel a little embarrassed. Soon, Qin Xing and Han Su arrived downstairs of Zhang Ying's dormitory with fruits in their hands, but they did not see Zhang Ying. Qin Xing still remembered Zhang Ying's appearance more or less. "Lao Qin, didn't the girl come down?" Seeing that there were girls coming and going downstairs, but there was no beauty waiting for them, Han Su asked casually. Qin Xing was not in a hurry. "We are not in a hurry. Let's wait for a while." "That's right. Nowadays, it takes half an hour for girls to go out and put on makeup. I'm afraid it will take a while. It's okay. I can take a look at the beauties. There are many beauties in the School of Human Arts," Han Su said happily. Then he sat directly on the roadside and watched the beauties of Tsinghua University come and go. Han Su's appearance, coupled with his appearance, made him look like a rich man no matter how one looked at him. So, there were really beautiful women who took a few more glances at him. However, none of them came over to hit on him. Han Su didn't have that intention either. They just admired each other. After waiting for more than 10 minutes, Zhang Ying still did not come down. Qin Xing frowned a little. In his impression, Zhang Ying was a very polite child. She would not let him wait for so long. So Qin Xing called Zhang Ying. but after calling her twice, no one answered. Qin Shing felt that something was wrong. In addition, they would not stay long. They would go back to the School of Economics and Management in a while. In the afternoon, they would go out to visit and study. So Qin Shing planned to go directly to find Zhang Ying. Qin Shing said to Han Su, "We don't need to wait. Let's go directly." Han Su stood up in a hurry and said, "We don't need to wait. It's not good. If the girl is putting on makeup and changing clothes, it will be too abrupt for us to go directly." Qin Shing explained, "Zhang Ying is not that kind of child. She is very simple." Han Su said disapprovingly, "That's not necessarily true. Nowadays, girls change very fast. Besides, you haven't seen her for a long time. How do you know what she has changed?" Qin Shing stared at Han Su and scolded angrily, "When did you become so long-winded? Are you afraid to enter the girls' dormitory? It should not be like that. You are a prodigal. Do you have the guts? You could insult Han Su as a prodigal son, but you could never humiliate him in women's affairs." Han Su directly retorted, "What the f***ck? How is it possible? I dared to go to the girls' toilet when I was young. I have been in the girls' dormitory many times. What is there to be afraid of?" After that, Han Su realized that he had said something wrong. How could he say what had happened when he was young? Moreover, his voice was so loud that all the girls going in and out heard it. They stared at him as if he was a pervert. It was not until then that Han Su realized that he had been tricked by Qin Shing again. Qin Shing had already bent over with laughter. It did not occur to him that this guy had such a record. Han Su had no choice but to quickly pull Qin Shing into the dormitory. When they arrived at the gate of the girls' dormitory, Qin Shing and Han Su were naturally stopped by the building manager. Qin Shing first asked the manager if she knew which dormitory Zhang Ying from the School of Humanities lived in. The manager told them that she knew and asked them who Zhang Ying was and so on. After Qin Shing explained, the manager did not let them in. Instead, she asked Qin Shing to call Zhang Ying. However, Qin Shing could not get through to Zhang Ying's phone, so the manager did not let them in. In the end, Han Su suddenly pulled Qin Shing aside and asked him to stop talking. He would end the rest. Qin Shing saw that Han Su used very exaggerated body language to say a lot of words to the manager. Anyway, his voice was very low so he could not hear it. In the end, the manager let them in. When sending them in, the manager did not forget to pat Qin Shing on the shoulder and said, "Young man, cherish the moment and pay attention to your health." Qin Shing was confused. He did not know what the manager meant. However, he was sure that Han Su must have set him up. He was probably taking revenge on him for digging a hole downstairs. So when they went upstairs, Qin Shing asked, "Han Su, tell me honestly, what did you say to the manager just now? Why do you ask this? Anyway, we have come in. Thank me." Han Su was proud and wanted to take credit. Finally, he had vented his anger. Qin Shing squinted and said, "Okay, you don't have to say it." Han Su shrugged, indicating that it did not matter. Anyway, he was in a good mood at this time. Finally, he returned the favor to Qin Shing. The manager told Qin Shing that Zhang Ying's dormitory was on the 3rd floor, dormitory 316. So Qin Shing and the manager went straight to the dormitory. The girls passing by upstairs were all looking at them. Occasionally, there were beautiful girls, and Han Su would greet them shamelessly. It seemed that he was in a good mood. As soon as they went up to the 3rd floor, Han Su and Qin Shing heard a very fierce quarrel. Then, they saw that the corridor not far away was crowded with many girls. Many of them were dressed very skimpily, such as pajamas with holes in them, and so on. There were also fair and beautiful legs. They finally understood why the building manager did not allow boys to come in. This was totally a welfare. Han Su did not take it seriously and did not think much. He just stared at the beautiful legs of those girls. This trip was really worth it. Qin Shing frowned slightly and subconsciously felt that it must have something to do with Zhang Ying. Otherwise, why did Zhang Ying not come down for so long? As expected, when they began to look for dormitory 316, the dormitory in the end was surrounded by a lot of girls. Qin Shing only heard a girl shouting in a very strict voice, "Zhang Ying, do you admit it today or not? Believe it or not, I will tell the school about this. At that time, you will have to bear the consequences." Then he heard a girl's sobbing voice reply, "I said I didn't. I didn't use your things, and I didn't steal your things. How can you accuse me?" Hearing this, Qin Shing thought that it was over. As expected, it had something to do with Zhang Ying, and it seemed that the trouble was not small. Han Su also heard it. She subconsciously patted the shoulder of a female classmate who was only wearing pajamas and asked, "Hey, classmate, what happened inside?" The female classmate subconsciously turned around and said with a very disdainful tone, "Hey, this girl." Before she could say a few words, she found that it was actually a man standing behind her. She directly screamed, and then quickly ran to the dormitory, covering her chest with her hands. Her voice directly covered the quarrel inside. The other girls also looked in this direction. After those who were dressed casually saw Qin Shing and Han Su, they also subconsciously screamed and ran away, as if they had encountered hooligans, perverts, or murderers. In the blink of an eye, more than half of the girls gathered in dormitory 316 were gathered. It could be seen that these girls really had no scruples in the dormitory on weekdays. Chapter 558. What do you think? The sudden appearance of two big men in the girls' dormitory frightened the girls. After all, the girls' dormitory was usually quite strict. Basically, no men came in. However, judging from the clothes of the two men, they did not look like bad guys, and they were quite handsome. It was natural for men to like beautiful women and women to like handsome men. Except for those girls who had fled, the other girls were still around. Many girls stood at the door of their dormitory and stared at them, for fear of missing a good show. After all, women preferred to be onlookers. Qin Shing and Han Su walked into the dormitory unhurriedly. This dormitory was similar to that of most students' dormitories, which looked a little messy. There were 4 beds, with a bed above, a desk and a cabinet below, a bathroom and a balcony at the innermost, where clothes and underwear of various colors were hung. This was a feature of the girls' dormitory. There were a total of 4 girls in the dormitory. One of them, who was wearing glasses, was covering her mouth and crying softly. This girl was dressed rather plainly. She was wearing a simple jacket and a pair of white jeans. It looked a little old, which made people feel sorry for her. As for the other 3 girls, it was obvious that they were not from ordinary families. They were dressed fashionably and wore heavy makeup. Besides, there were many luxury brand bags in the dormitory. What on earth happened? A beautiful girl with slightly curly hair looked at Qin Shing and Han Su and frowned. "Who are you? What's the matter?" Qin Shing had already recognized that the girl wearing glasses and crying at the moment was Zhang Yong's sister, Zhang Ying. It seemed that she had been bullied by other girls in the dormitory. However, Qin Shing had not figured out what was going on, so he would not say anything. However, Han Su did not know these details. He smiled and asked, "Little sister, may I ask who is Zhang Ying? We are her friends. We are here to see her." The beautiful girl laughed contemptuously. Then she glanced at the crying girl and snorted. "You don't even know who she is. Are you sure you are her friends?" At this time, Zhang Ying had already raised her head and subconsciously looked at Qin Shing and Han Su. Of course, she could recognize Qin Shing, but at this time, she felt a little wronged and embarrassed to face Qin Shing. She sobbed and said, "Brother Qin Shing." Qin Shing didn't care what had happened. The purpose of his visit today was to see Zhang Ying. So he walked over slowly, touched Zhang Ying's hair, and said with a smile, "I haven't seen you for a few years. You've grown into a big girl. What's wrong with you? You've grown up, but you're still crying. Zhang Ying was actually quite beautiful. It was just that she wore glasses and didn't know how to dress up, so she looked a little rustic. However, no one would deny that Zhang Ying was a little beautiful. It was just that her height of 1.7 meters was a little thin. She probably couldn't bear to eat well on normal days. Only then did Han Su realize that the crying girl was Zhang Ying. He thought she was one of the three beauties. As Qin Shing's follower, no matter what happened, Han Su would stand up for Zhang Ying, so he said confidently, "You are Xiao Ying. Tell me, who bullied you?" One of the three girls over there, a short-haired girl, replied sarcastically, "Yo, it seems that you have found two helpers. Who are you trying to scare? They don't even know each other, yet they call each other brother and sister sweetly. Who knows what their relationship is?" Qin Shing and Han Su both frowned. It seemed that these girls should be Zhang Ying's roommates. How could they quarrel with each other? Could it be that Zhang Ying did not get along well with others usually? Other people could swallow their anger, but Han Su would never suffer in silence. He directly responded, "Beauty, why do I feel that you look so familiar? You seem to be a hostess in a club I went to a few days ago." "That's true, I really can't recognize you with you dressed like this." Han Su's words were ruthless. "What did you say? Why don't you try saying it again?" When the girl heard this, she immediately exploded. She pointed at Han Su and said angrily. This little girl's temper was quite explosive. Han Su replied disapprovingly, "Don't you understand what I'm saying? Let me say it again. Who do you think you are? I want money for my words. Can you afford it?" Qin Shing didn't want to make things worse. He pulled Han Su to the back and said, "Don't talk now. Let me figure out what's going on. They are all students. Don't mind them. After all, there were many students around. It would be bad if they made trouble here. Moreover, they had not figured out what was going on." Qin Shing looked at the crowd and asked, "I'm Zhang Ying's brother. Can anyone tell me what's going on?" The beautiful girl with curly hair, who looked like a rich girl, laughed and said, "Are you Zhang Ying's brother? I thought you were someone else. Just ask your sister what happened." Qin Shing ignored those girls. He looked at Zhang Ying and said, "Ying, tell me what happened. Don't be afraid. No matter what happens, I'm here." Qin Sheng's last sentence reassured Zhang Ying. This girl didn't have to worry too much. After all, she was born in an ordinary family. Sometimes she would feel inferior and lack of confidence in the big city. Zhang Ying wiped away her tears and said with grievance, "Lu Wen said that I secretly used her cosmetics and shampoo. Zhang Mi said that I stole the money she lost last time. But I didn't. They framed me. They didn't listen to my explanation." "Framed you? Haha, who else in our dormitory could do such a thing except you? Zhang Ying, just tell us the truth. We can forgive you." The short-haired girl seemed to be very generous. But how could she admit this kind of thing? Not to mention that Zhang Ying didn't do it. Even if she did, only a fool would admit it. Qin Shing had thought that it would be a big deal. It turned out that it was just a trivial matter. Then these girls refused to let go of Zhang Ying. They might have had some conflicts in the past. He looked at the girls and said, "How do you know that she did it? Do you have any evidence?" The girl named Zhang Mi, who looked very elegant with curly hair, laughed and said, "Do we need evidence? Do we need to steal money and things?" Qin Shing didn't expect that these three girls studying at Tsinghua University would say such things. Qin Shing really suspected that their college entrance examination results were fake. He laughed and said, "Why? Why not you? Why did it have to be Zhang Ying?" "Because our family is rich and we don't lack money. She is poor, so she lacks money." Zhang Mi's answer was very straightforward, but it directly shocked people. This was their theory. Qin Shing finally understood. It turned out that their reason was so unreasonable. Qin Shing looked back at Zhang Ying and asked, "Xiao Ying, let me ask you again. Did you do these things?" Zhang Ying said firmly, "Brother Qin Shing, I swear I really didn't." If I did it, I would rather go out and be hit by a car and die. In order to prove her innocence, Zhang Ying said her harsh words. Because she knew that once this matter was put on her head, even if the school did not expel her, she would not have a good time in the 4 years of university. Qin Sheng stared at Zhang Ying's eyes. Zhang Ying's eyes were very clean, without any flickering or distracting thoughts. So Qin Sheng believed Zhang Ying. Moreover, according to Qin Sheng's understanding of the Zhang family, they were very simple and should not do such a thing. After comforting Zhang Ying, Qin Sheng looked at the 3 girls and said, "In your eyes, as long as she is poor, this must be done by her. But how do you know that my sister is poor?" "Ha ha ha, brother, you must be kidding me. Look at what she wears, how does she look like a rich person? Anyone can see it, okay?" The short-haired girl named Lu Wen said happily. Qin Sheng chuckled and said, "Even if you wear branded clothes and expensive cosmetics, you are rich. In my eyes, you are just a poor person." Well, you make it sound like you are rich. It's not like I haven't seen rich people," Lu Wen said disapprovingly. "They all came from very good families. Zhang Mi's family was the richest. After all, she was born and raised in Beijing. Her family alone had dozens of houses. How could she not be rich?" Qin Sheng said pretentiously, "Sorry, we are rich in your eyes." After that, Qin Sheng took out his wallet from his pocket and took out the ICBC Centurion black gold card that his sister had given him. He threw it on the ground directly and sneered. "The ICBC Centurion black gold card. Do you know it?" As soon as Qin Sheng finished speaking, Han Su also took out his wallet from his pocket. He also took out his credit card and threw it on the ground. He said playfully, "Sorry, I also have one, but it's the ICBC black gold card. Oh, I almost forgot. I also have 2 old cars. La Ferrari from Ferrari. It's not expensive, but it's more than 30 million. I can drive it for a ride today. Otherwise, I can't show off. You should know that, right?" Han Su took out the car key from his pocket and threw it on the ground. Qin Sheng almost gave Han Su a thumbs up and said, "Brother, you are really ruthless." The 3 girls were shocked by Qin Sheng and Han Su's rich and imposing manner. Many girls in the corridor behind them also exclaimed. Maybe only some of them knew how valuable these things were, but they felt that they were very awesome when they heard it. Qin Sheng and Han Su were shocked. At this time, Qin Sheng stared at the 3 girls again and said, "Don't you think we are not rich? Maybe in the eyes of some people, we are not so rich. But you, including your families, are not qualified. So, how do you know that my sister is not rich? She just doesn't want to be high profile. You really think so highly of yourself." The 3 girls looked at each other and could not say anything anymore. They did not know where the 2 men in front of them came from, but they were sure that their families were much richer than theirs. Qin Sheng did not want to say too much. In the end, he snorted and said, "Don't use your ignorance to ruin other people's kindness and simplicity. They just don't want to argue with you." After that, Qin Sheng pulled Zhang Ying and walked out. He would ask Zhang Ying about the details and then find someone to investigate this matter. Otherwise, Zhang Ying would be embarrassed in the future. Chapter 559. Sure enough, they had been cheated. However, they were all girls who had just entered college, so Qin Sheng was still polite to them. He did not use violence against them. He just reasoned with them, laid out the facts, and then intimidated them with his strength. In this way, they would not dare to bully Zhang Ying at will in the future. They could not frame and bully poor children just because they were rich. That was unreasonable. Today's society was very realistic, and these children, who were far more mature than they were also very realistic. Today, with the spread of information on the internet, they had been exposed to many rules of this society very early. It was just that their ideological system had not been completely established yet. No matter the three girls in Zhang Ying's dormitory who had been spoiled since childhood, or the other girls who were watching outside, they did not think that Qin Sheng and Han Su were fooling them just now. After all, only professional liars would go out with such things. They were all students of Tsinghua University. If they did not have such judgment, it would be a waste of the results of 9 years of compulsory education. Most of the girls were stunned by Qin Sheng and Han Su, especially the Ferrari worth more than 30 million yuan and the 2 legendary Centurion black gold card. These were all scenes in the Mary Sue TV series. Today they actually encountered them in reality. Some girls who were infatuated with Qin Sheng and Han Su were a little fond of Qin Sheng and Han Su. They thought if they took the initiative to attack, would there be a love story between idols? Of course, there were also girls who did not understand these things. After all, these were the toys of the rich. They only thought that Qin Sheng and Han Su were very cool, standing up for this thin and weak girl. After all, the behavior of the other girls in dormitory 316 just now was too much. Of course, there were also girls who thought that Qin Sheng and Han Su's behavior was immature and stupid. Everyone looked at the problem from a different standpoint. Moreover, they were all students of Tsinghua University. After Qin Sheng finished acting, he left with Zhang Ying, leaving the crowd with a mysterious figure. Han Su was going to leave in a cool and natural way, but the reality did not allow him to do so. He, who had been very cool just now, could only pick up the black gold card and car key bitterly at the moment. However, in order to end it perfectly, Han Su had to clean up Qin Sheng's mess. He said to the 3 beauties, "Beauties, my name is Han Su. If you are interested in me, you can come to the School of Economics and Management to find me. We are studying in the Young Leaders Seminar there." What Han Su said was to tell the 3 beauties, "Don't think that you can continue to bully Zhang Ying after we leave. Both of us have been studying in Tsinghua University recently." Besides, it also told everyone their identity again, so there was no need to doubt their behavior and words. In the garden outside the girls' dormitory, Qin Sheng and Zhang Ying were sitting on a bench. After they came down, Zhang Ying apologized to Qin Sheng for making him wait for so long and causing him trouble. Qin Sheng said with a smile, "You silly child. When you were little, you sent food and gifts to our family. Now that you have grown up, of course, I will protect you. If anyone bullies you in the future, tell me. I will help you." Qin Sheng's look of baring his fangs and brandishing his claws was very funny. He could not help but amuse Zhang Ying, who was in a very bad mood. Zhang Ying originally thought that Qin Sheng would be very difficult to get along with. She did not expect him to be so approachable. It seemed that he was a little different from the kind of successful person that her brother had described. Maybe it was because of his 2 sisters, Xin and Yi. Qin Sheng had a strong desire to protect little girls like Zhang Ying. Moreover, Zhang Ying was a kind girl. Seeing that Zhang Ying was amused, Qin Sheng asked again, "Ying, they are all your roommates. Why did they frame you? Normally, the relationship between college roommates should be good. My college roommates are my good brothers. They helped me a lot." Speaking of this, Zhang Ying let out a long sigh and said sadly, "Brother Qin Sheng, no matter whether you believe me or not, I have to say it again. I have never done those things. Although our family is poor, our parents have taught us how to be a good person since we were young. We would never do such things." "I believe you. What's going on? Do you have any conflicts?" Qin Sheng continued to ask. The college years were related to the future direction of Zhang Ying's life. Qin Sheng did not want these trivial things to affect Zhang Ying's character and study. So Zhang Ying told him about the conflicts between her and the other 3 roommates. In fact, they had a good relationship at the beginning, but they had conflicts later. Because her family was poor, Zhang Ying found 2 part-time jobs in addition to attending classes. One was to help in the school library, and the other was to tutor high school students on Sundays. After all, her parents had passed away long ago. Her tuition and living expenses were earned by her brother's work. She knew that her brother's work was hard and tiring, so she wanted to do a part-time job to relieve her brother's pressure. Moreover, her brother was not married yet, let alone buying a house. In addition to the part-time job, Zhang Ying spent all her time on studying. She planned to apply for a second degree in her major, so she had to work harder. She felt very busy every day. The other 3 roommates in the dormitory were from better families, so they did not have much pressure at all. Zhang Mi and Lu Wen had plans to study abroad in the future. In the beginning, they called Zhang Ying, but Zhang Ying politely refused. She didn't have time, and she didn't have money. She couldn't always go to freeload for food and drinks, and Zhang Ying couldn't do it. Later, she was not invited for any other activities in the dormitory. Zhang Ying was completely isolated. They usually went together, but only Zhang Ying was alone. The harder she worked and the more diligent she was, the more others disliked her. It seemed that only by doing the same things as them could she be recognized by them. However, Zhang Ying did not have this ability at all, so the conflicts became more and more serious. Some time ago, Zhang Mi, the daughter of a rich family, lost thousands of yuan in the dormitory. That was the pocket money she had just taken out. Without evidence, several people insisted that Zhang Ying stole it. The reason was that their family was rich and did not lack money, so they would not steal money. Zhang Ying's family was poor, so she would steal money. It seemed to be very reasonable, but it was completely fallacious. This afternoon, when Zhang Ying came back from her elective class, Lu Wen insisted that she had used her shampoo and other things when she took a bath last night. She pointed at Zhang Ying's nose and scolded her. She dug out the past and blamed it all on Zhang Ying, which led to the scene that Qin Xing had just seen. After listening to Zhang Ying's story, Qin Xing finally understood what was going on. This kind of thing was not uncommon. It existed in any group. For example, if there was a smart person in a group of idiots, these idiots would naturally crowd together to exclude this smart person. This was especially prominent in state-owned enterprises. Zhang Ying was very hard-working and strong. She knew how to change her fate, so Qin Xing comforted her. Xiao Ying, no matter what the world is like, no matter what others think of you, stick to what you think is right and do what you should do. After all, everyone's world is different. Zhang Ying nodded heavily and said, "Okay, I got it. Brother Qin Xing, thank you. I will definitely do that. This is my mobile phone number. If you have any problems in the future, call me. If they are making trouble for you, or if you don't want to live with them anymore, I can help you find a teacher to change your dormitory. Also, I have been studying in the School of Economics and Management recently. You can also go to me directly, but I will be graduating at the end of this month," Qin Xing said with a smile, and then told Zhang Ying his mobile phone number. However, Qin Xing did not want to deliberately change Zhang Ying's life trajectory, although he had the ability to do so now. Zhang Ying should grow up and challenge according to her own pace. That was the real her. At this time, Han Su had already come out. Just now, downstairs in the dormitory, he was suddenly stopped by the building manager and asked about the funeral. Then Han Su took revenge on Qin Xing again. Finally, it was balanced. Seeing Han Su coming out, Qin Xing stood up and said, "Xiao Ying, it's time for us to go. We have to go to the Wadayaku for exchange and learning in the afternoon. See you next time." As soon as Han Su came over, he was pulled away by Qin Xing. He did not forget to say to Zhang Ying, "Xiao Ying, if you have any problems, you can also look for me. Go to the School of Economics and Management and tell them my name. My name is Zhang Su." On the way back to the School of Economics and Management, Qin Xing asked again, "Han Su, tell me honestly, what did you say to the building manager, so that she let us in?" Han Su said proudly, "Do you really want to know?" Qin Xing moved his muscles and said gloomily, "It seems that I have to do it. I told her that you were Zhang Ying's high school classmate and that you had a crush on her, but you didn't dare to tell her about it. Recently, you got an incurable disease and could only live for another month. The hospital refused to take you in and told you to go home and wait for death. You didn't want to have any regrets in your life, so you came to Beijing to confess to Zhang Ying. However, Zhang Ying didn't know the truth, so she didn't want to see you. So she begged Auntie to give you a chance. You just wanted to see her once, Han Su said as he stepped back. When he finished telling the whole story, he was already far away from Qin Shing. After Qin Shing heard this, he was speechless. No wonder this guy was so proud at that time. It turned out that he had tricked him. So Qin Shing scolded angrily, Han Su, damn you. Han Su ran like a rabbit. However, compared with Qin Shing, who was walking on flat ground in Zhongnan Mountains, how could he be Qin Shing's opponent? It did not take long for him to be caught up and beaten violently. In the afternoon, in the activities of the Central Bank and the Wudayaku School of Finance, Qin Shing and Han Su learned a lot, especially how the central bank made the national financial and monetary policies, what mechanisms and think tanks there were, and so on. Of course, there were also a lot of leaders' work, which benefited them a lot. The exchange in the Wudayaku School of Finance was the collision of theory and practice. Those scholars and students talked about their research topics and so on. These young entrepreneurs or successors talked about the practical problems encountered by the enterprises and so on. The atmosphere was very warm. Even Han Su could not help but ask a few questions, although it was a little naive. In the next few days, Qin Shing's life was basically very regular. He either accompanied Qin Jing to and from work or went to Tsinghua University to attend classes. Except for the weekend dinner with Lu Yang and the young elites of the group, he did not have any other social activities. Chapter 560. Chapter 561 Death. Let's not talk about this. On Tuesday afternoon, Qin Shing went to Xi'an with Chang Baji and his secretary, Yan Pan. Hao Lei had been taking care of the mother and daughter. Otherwise, Qin Shing would not be at ease. Although Lu Changxi was in Xi'an, Lu Changxi was too busy to take care of them. After Qin Shing returned to Xi'an, he would definitely be busy dealing with other things. Hao Lei would also go with him. At that time, there would be no one to take care of the mother and daughter. Qin Shing took Yan Pan with him. Moreover, Yan Pan could tell him immediately if anything happened in the group. At the same time, if there was any need, Yan Pan could contact the Xi'an branch of the group in time. This was Yan Pan's first time to Xi'an. She was from Dalian and stayed in Beijing after her master's degree. During these years, she basically went to the coastal cities in the southeast and rarely went to the inland cities. When they arrived in Xi'an, it was past 6 o'clock in the evening. Qin Shing took Chang Baji back to the Lin's house in Xujiang New District. Auntie Wang had been discharged from the hospital and had to rest at home for a month or two. She had quit her job. After all, Qin Shing was able to take care of all the Lins and would not let them suffer anymore. Hao Lei was supposed to pick them up at the airport, but Qin Shing told him to stay at the Lin's house. Yan Pan had already told the branch office that Qin Shing would take some time to inspect several branches of the group in Shaanxi. When they returned to the Lin's house, Xin was the happiest to see Qin Shing. But she muttered that Qin Shing took so long to come back and thought he had forgotten them. Qin Shing quickly comforted her. Then Xin noticed the female secretary, Yan Pan, behind Qin Shing. Xin was a little speechless. Why did this playboy bring a beauty every time he came back to Xi'an? He was too much. Besides, they were all so beautiful. She really didn't know how many girls he had violated outside. She also didn't know if Sister Lin knew about it. No wonder Sister Su Qin was so sad. Of course, Qin Shing knew what Xin was thinking about. He quickly explained, "This is my secretary, Yan Pan. I was afraid that no one would take care of you, so I brought her along. By the way, I have some work to deal with." It was not until then that Xin understood and stopped complaining about Qin Sheng. Otherwise, she would start to criticize Qin Sheng secretly. After Hao Lei saw the beautiful lady, he greeted Yan Pan politely. Of course, he knew that Qin Sheng had started working in the family business and had been appointed as the non-executive director of the entire group. Of course, Hao Lei already knew how big Qin Sheng's family's business was. It was a top-notch aircraft carrier even in the whole country, let alone in Xi'an. No one could compete with it. However, there were always many rumors and gossip about this giant. After introducing Yan Pan, Qin Sheng introduced other people to Yan Pan. The lady in the wheelchair was her adoptive mother, Auntie Wang. This beautiful young lady was his younger sister. This burly man was his best friend and high school classmate, Hao Lei. "Auntie, how have you been recently? Do you feel okay?" Qin Sheng sat beside Auntie Wang and asked with concern. After coming out of the hospital, Wang Li felt much better. Most importantly, she was in a good mood. Qin Sheng and Hao Lei were taking care of everything. Her husband Lin Shi's case was also progressing smoothly. Tomorrow, the provincial high court would start the trial. According to Hao Lei, the provincial high court was almost certain that Lin Shi would be acquitted. At that time, they could reunite with their family. Wang Li held Qin Sheng's hand and said, "I'm fine. I'll be fine after 1 or 2 months. It's just that you and Lei have worked hard during this period. Auntie, this is what I should do. You just need to rest quietly. I'll take care of the rest," Qin Sheng comforted Auntie Wang. Xin was very dissatisfied and muttered, "Mom, I've worked hard too. Why don't you praise me?" Okay. Xin, you've worked the hardest. Mom will remember it." Wang Li did not know whether to laugh or cry. Fortunately, this silly girl was by her side to take care of her, which saved her a lot of trouble. Xin looked at Qin Sheng and muttered, "Brother, do I get a reward or a small gift? You haven't gone to school recently. Have you been studying hard at home? If you can't get into Tsinghua University's postgraduate program, I'll teach you a lesson." Qin Sheng deliberately made things difficult for Xin. He really hoped that Xin would study in Beijing. At that time, he could let Uncle Lin and Auntie Wang retire in Beijing, and he could take good care of them. Xin held Qin Sheng's arm and said coquettishly, "Don't be so fierce. Of course, I'm studying hard. Not only did I not fall behind in my professional courses, but I'm also preparing for the postgraduate program. At that time, I can go to Beijing to eat and drink with you." After the Lin family's accident, Xin, who had been raised in a rich family since childhood, had suffered a lot in the past few years. Qin Sheng asked her to go to Beijing to make up for these years. At that time, Qin Sheng would not be stingy with what he could give her. He would never let Xin experience the cruelty of society and reality at an early age. Okay. I can't wait for you to come to Beijing and eat me up. Now your brother is rich, Qin Sheng said disapprovingly and made fun of himself. Yan Pan, who was sitting not far away, heard the words rich and almost laughed out loud. However, the crown prince in front of her was really rich, a super rich person. This little sister might not be able to eat all of it in several lifetimes. Qin Sheng then said, "Since you're doing so well, I'll give you a gift. A set of limited edition St. Roland cosmetics and a limited edition bag. They're all in my suitcase. I'll give them to you later." Hearing this gift, Xin exclaimed, "Wow, brother, you're so nice. I love you so much." After saying that, Xin was about to jump into Qin Sheng's arms. Qin Sheng quickly pushed her away and said, "Hurry up. I think you love cosmetics and bags, right?" Xin smiled and did not deny it. At this time, Auntie Wang was a little tired, so she asked Xin to push her to the master bedroom to rest. Then she would wake her up when the housekeeper was ready for dinner. The housekeeper was hired by Hao Lei, a distant relative of his. She was very good at cooking. After Auntie Wang and Xin left, Hao Lei complained, "You're finally back. Hurry up and take me away from Xian. Recently, my family has been arranging a girlfriend for me every day. They said that if I don't have a girlfriend by the end of the year, I won't go home. It's not good to arrange a girlfriend for you. You should get married soon. Otherwise, when your parents see me, they will definitely scold me." Qin Xing deliberately made fun of Hao Lei. But he knew the fact that Hao Lei liked Han Bing. Qin Xing did not know whether Han Bing knew it or not. But it seemed that even if Han Bing knew it, it would be difficult for her to be moved in a short time. After all, Han Bing still liked him. It was still a headache, and there was still no solution. Hao Lei took a sip of water, stared at Qin Xing and snorted, "It's easy for you to say that." Qin Xing turned around, looked at Yen Pan and asked, "Hey Yen Pan, do you have a boyfriend? If you don't, how about this handsome guy? Your age is quite suitable. I will give you a super big red packet." Not to mention Yen Pan was a little embarrassed, even Hao Lei was a little embarrassed. But Yen Pan still responded politely, "Chairman Qin, I already have a boyfriend." "Ah, what a pity." Qin Xing sighed. Hao Lei was so angry that he directly retorted, "Lao Qin, you forced me to do this. Su Qin came here twice." As soon as he mentioned Su Qin's name, Qin Xing's arrogance disappeared immediately. He slightly frowned and said, "When did she come here?" Hao Lei said honestly, "She came here the third day after you left, and the day before yesterday. She heard from Zhao Xian that Auntie Wang was hospitalized in a car accident, and finally called me." "How is she?" Qin Xing laughed at himself. Although there would be no more interaction between them, Qin Xing still cared about Su Qin very much. He hoped that Su Qin's life would get better and better, so that she could forget about him as soon as possible. Hao Lei said slowly, "After Su Qin came back from Shanghai, she entered her family's company. Now she is the general manager. Her father plans to gradually retire behind the scenes and completely hand over the company to Su Qin. Everything else is fine. It's just that she has a headache recently, just like me. Her parents have introduced a lot of men to her, and there are many young talents chasing after her. But she doesn't want to fall in love and get married in a short time. She just wants to focus on her work." After saying this, Hao Lei added, "I still can't let you go. I didn't ask you anything the first time, but when I was about to leave for the second time, I still couldn't help but ask about you." Qin Xing asked subconsciously, "What did you say?" Hao Lei shrugged and said, "What else could I say? I told her the truth. She said that you had experienced a lot, left Hangzhou and returned to Beijing, and also found your long-lost family. A few days ago, you were dealing with Uncle Lin's matter in Xi'an, and have been in Beijing during this period." Qin Xing didn't know what to say, so he could only ask, "What did she say?" "She just said that she was happy for you and hoped that everything would go well for you." When she said these words, I felt that her smile was a little forced, and her eyes were a little sad. Hao Lei shook his head and sighed bitterly. No matter what, no matter how many women Qin Xing met, he would always stand by Su Qin's side. Because in Hao Lei's life memory, the love between Qin Xing and Su Qin was the most enviable one. From high school to college, they had experienced the best period of their lives. Qin Xing patted Hao Lei's shoulder. He also knew what Hao Lei wanted to say, but it was useless. He smiled bitterly and said, "Let's not talk about this, let's not talk about this." Chang Baji was already very familiar with this love. He didn't comment on it, because it was all Qin Xing's personal choice. After all, he was not the person involved. Although Yen Pan heard it for the first time and didn't know what was going on, she almost understood it. At this time, the housekeeper came to inform them that dinner was ready and they could have dinner. Qin Xing and Hao Lei ended this topic. Night fell. Qin Xing accompanied the mother and daughter of the Lin family to have dinner in Xi'an. In the city of Beijing, Qin Chang'an was dragged by his niece, Yaya, to watch a movie. She was bored when Qin Sheng was not there, and her mother had not come back from Shenzhen. Qin Chang'an, who had not been to the cinema for a few years, had to accommodate her. Chapter 561. Chapter 562. Ntro Ducito an unspeakable secret. Because it was located in the west, it was not long after dark in Gansu. The Gobi Desert was desolate and uninhabited. Nangong and Bach, who had been driving for 3 hours, were very bored. Bach, who was driving, was playing his favorite hip-hop music and mumbling to himself, looking very energetic. Bach liked to listen to music while driving, otherwise he would probably fall asleep. Nangong, who was in a bad mood, said impatiently, "Can't you turn off the music? What are you listening to?" Along the way, Bach and Nangong had quarreled countless times, and Bach was beaten up by Nangong several times. But Bach never admitted defeat. When it was time to quarrel, he still quarreled, and when it was time to be beaten, he did not reply. You don't like it, and you don't allow others to listen to it. Come on, you drive, I'll go to the back and sleep for a while. Bach retorted impolitely. They had been searching for several days, and they had gone to 3 places that he knew, but they still could not find Mr. Ding, not even a shadow. If they still could not find Mr. Ding in the last place, then there was nothing Bach could do. He knew that Nangong was disappointed and depressed that he could not find Mr. Ding, so he was naturally in a bad mood. But he could not vent his anger on him. Nangong glared at Bach and said, "Do you want to be beaten again?" The Gobi Desert was desolate and uninhabited, but the scenery was very good. It was a pity that the two of them had long been tired of looking at the scenery. At this time, they were not in the mood to enjoy the scenery, but they were happily bickering. Nangong did not know that the Qin family had gotten a chance to breathe, and nothing would happen in a short time. But no one told Nangong not to look for Mr. Ding anymore, so Nangong could only continue to search, because this was the task given to him by his foster father. After meeting the former emperor of Mongolia, that day, Nangong directly left the Badain Jeren Desert with Bach and went straight to the border of northern Mongolia. According to Bach, Mr. Ding would stay there for a period of time every year, so they went there first because there was a racetrack there. Mr. Ding liked to raise horses, and he liked racing more, so the probability of him appearing there was very high. Unfortunately, he failed in the end. His acquaintance there said that Mr. Ding had not been to the racetrack for a long time, and his racetrack had long been handed over to others to take care of. Subsequently, they went to 2 other places to look for Mr. Ding, but there was still no news of Mr. Ding. This made Nangong very angry. She felt that Man and Ba He were playing with her. Of course Ba He had to refute. She could scold him, but she could not scold his uncle. In the end, Ba He suffered the first beating from Nangong. Ever since he left the Badain Jeren Desert, he had been in a bad mood for the past 2 days. After all, he had left the familiar environment and his aged uncle, so he couldn't quite let it go. But later on, Bach's mood was very good. He had been staying in the desert for the past few years, and seemed to be out of touch with the outside world. He could take this opportunity to come out and see the outside world. Ba He said indifferently, "It's not like I haven't been beaten before. Anyway, I can't beat you. Since resistance is meaningless, I might as well enjoy it." Obviously, Ba He was taking advantage of Nangong. Except for this woman's bad temper, she was quite good in other aspects, such as her face and figure. There was no such beauty in the desert. It was a kind of enjoyment to be with such a beauty, so Ba He felt pain and happiness at the same time. Nangong was really not in the mood to continue to quarrel with Ba He. She was thinking that if she could not find Mr. Ding in the shortest time and bring him back to Beijing, what if something happened to her adoptive father? So Nangong directly shouted, "Stop the car." Ba He said angrily, "Big sister, this is no man's land. If you ask me to stop the car now, are we going to spend the night here?" I heard that there are a lot of wild beasts here. What if we are killed here? I asked you to stop the car, Nangong said sharply. Okay, I'll stop the car. He felt that if he did not stop the car, Nangong would grab the steering wheel, so he had to stop the car obediently and see what tricks this girl was going to play. The starry sky in the western Gobi Desert at night was very bright, which could not be seen in the city. Nangong looked up at the starry sky thoughtfully, while he lit a cigarette and puffed out smoke. This was his only habit. The rest of the time, he dealt with the desert and the trees. Sometimes it was boring, but sometimes it was particularly interesting. He almost finished the cigarette, but Nangong was still leaning against the car and looking up at the starry sky in a daze. Except for the places where the car lights shone, the surroundings were dark. There was not even a little light. In the distant valley, there was even the howling of wild beasts. Ordinary people would not want to stay here for even a second. Big sister, why are you still here? Do you really want to spend the night here? Bahi's face was very ugly. Anyway, this beauty could do anything. Nangong snorted coldly. Bahi, if there is no news of Mr. Ding at the last place, I will kill you first. Bahi heard this and said helplessly, Madam, why do you want to kill me? If I am Mr. Ding, I will definitely appear in front of you without hesitation. So what does it have to do with me if you can't find Mr. Ding? Besides, what's the use of killing me? Nangong had never thought that Bahi would be so long-winded. Along the way, he had seen it for himself. A man was after all an ambitious person in Mingxi for many years. How did he cultivate such a nephew? So Nangong was too lazy to talk nonsense. She grabbed Bahi and threw him over her shoulder. Bahi was thrown far away and fell heavily on the ground. Bahi grimaced in pain and his buttocks were hurt by the stones on the ground. He struggled to get up and scolded, Crazy woman, are you king sick? After teaching Bahi a lesson, Nangong's mood was much better. Suddenly, she smiled brightly and said, How far is this place from the town you mentioned? Bahi muttered, A good man does not fight with a woman. When I have the chance in the future, I will secretly drug you and then slowly torture you for revenge. Today I will bear with it. Then Bahi got up and said with a cheeky smile, We will arrive in another hour, but that town is not very safe. Anyway, it is a place that is not governed by the government and is surrounded by no man's land. We have to be careful. Have you seen the movie No Man's Land? It is similar to the place they met on the way, but there are more people there. Get in the car. Nangong shouted at Bahi and then took the lead to get in the car. She took the initiative to drive so that Bahi could rest for a while. Although she threatened him and taught him a lot, she had already regarded him as a friend. But if Bahi knew, he would rather not have such a friend. In Xi'an City, Qin Xing left after having dinner at the Lin family. Yen Pan stayed to accompany the mother and daughter of the Lin family. At night, they still stayed at the Tsujiang Hyatt Hotel. Lu Changxi invited Qin Xing out for a drink. Of course, Qin Xing could not refuse. After all, Lu Changxi had helped him a lot during this period of time. Qin Xing had to thank him properly. Although Lu Changxi was such a friend because of his background, they could continue to be friends. After all, it was inevitable. Qin Xing went out with Hao Lei and Lao Chong. The three of them gathered together again. There were many bars in Tsujiang. Some time ago, a Fanhua bar was opened. The decoration was more artistic. It was positioned between a nightclub and a leisure bar. Qin Xing had not been there before. After all, he had not been in Xi'an for a long time. He only knew that it was in the newly opened Tsujiang harbor city. At this time, there were not many customers in the bar, and the atmosphere was not very warm. So Qin Xing found Lu Changxi easily. The guy sat alone in a big booth with his legs crossed. There was only a bottle of beer on the table. He looked very pretentious. However, the person in charge of the bar and the two shareholders took turns to greet him. Everyone knew that the man in front of them was not simple. Looking at his clothes and temperament, he was definitely a rich man. Qin Shing found Lu Changshi quickly and went straight to greet him. Lu Changshi smiled and stood up. Qin Shing, why do you look so thin recently? Qin Shing shrugged and sighed. I have a hard life. I can't be as comfortable as you. Lu Changshi said happily, you have a hard life. If you have a hard life, there are not many people in the world who have a good life. But correspondingly, the greater the ability, the greater the responsibility, and the greater the pressure. You are right. Qin Shing could not refute. Lu Changshi laughed and then said hello to Hao Lei and Chang Baji. During this period, he had more contact with Hao Lei and they were already familiar with each other. After all, Qin Shing completely handed over the affairs of the Lin family to Hao Lei. Correspondingly, he also handed over those resources to Hao Lei. After everyone sat down, Lu Changshi asked the waiter to start serving the wine. The reason why he chose this place was that he invited someone to dinner at a restaurant not far away. Lu Changshi was too lazy to make trouble, so he came here. Coincidentally, the bar was also opened by his friend, so he just wanted to support him. They drank red wine for dinner. Lu Changshi did not want to mix alcohol, so he also chose red wine. The shareholders of the bar had already taken out their own wine collection and sent it over. Lu Changshi was not surprised at all and appreciated the gesture. But he still paid more later. Lu Changshi took the lead and said, I have inquired about Uncle Lin's matter through many channels. Basically, it has been settled. Although we encountered a lot of obstacles during this period, they are just some bad guys who are not worth mentioning. Qin Shing said sincerely, I have to thank you, Brother Lu. You have worked hard during this period. Lu Changshi ate a piece of watermelon and looked at the beauties in the bar. He found that some of them were staring at them. He was afraid that they would treat them as prey. He smiled bitterly and said, Actually, I did not help much. It was mainly because the Qin family's relationship with the Supreme Court and the province worked. The biggest support for this case has long been destroyed. Naturally, there is not too much pressure. Qin Shing picked up the wine glass and chuckled. Anyway, I still have to thank you, Brother Lu. Lu Changshi said happily, come on, let's drink together. After drinking this glass of wine, Lu Changshi said unhurriedly, Uncle Lin, you've come out now, but those people who were lucky enough to escape the storm will be scared. Now they are a little scared, afraid that you will settle accounts with them after the fall. What's more, you have targeted the Tan family and the Zhang family last time. These two families are not having a good time now. Qin Shing snorted and said, You have to pay back what you owe. If you had known this would happen today, why did you do it in the first place? Lu Changshi said meaningfully, Where possible, one should forgive and forget. After hearing this, Qin Shing frowned slightly and said after thinking for a while, It seems that Brother Lu has something that is difficult to say. Lu Changshi said with a smile, You can even see it. In this case, Qin Shing, I will not make fun of you. Just say it. Recently, there have been too many people looking for me, and I can't refuse some of them. I really have no choice. It seems that this matter has something to do with me. I can't put my face down, so I have to bite the bullet. Brother Lu, I understand. Qin Shing responded very simply. After all, Lu Changshi had been staying in this big circle in Xi'an, and it was impossible for him to be alone. Lu Changshi continued, So, there is another thing that I asked you to come out today. But I will not interfere with your final choice. I just want to finish the task. Qin Sheng was a little confused and said, What is it, Brother Lu? Lu Changshi said slowly, I want you to meet two people. After that, Lu Changshi did not wait for Qin Sheng to give a definite answer. He directly waved to a booth in the distance, and two men immediately came over. Chapter 562. twists and turns. After several generations of hard work and management, the Lu family was definitely a top family in Xi'an, a real local tyrant. No one dared to despise or offend them. For example, a certain tycoon on the Huruan list, who was rumored to have an accident and then kept a low profile for a long time, finally got through this crisis with the help of the Lu family. As for what price he paid, no one knew. But one thing was certain, this tycoon's affairs were not deep. Otherwise, the Lu family, who had always been cautious, would not get involved in that mess. From this, it could be seen that the Lu family was very powerful here. Their relationships in all aspects were complicated. Naturally, there would be people who hoped that the Lu family would build bridges through all kinds of relationships so that Qin Sheng would let them go. In this way, the Lu family would gain some benefit. As for the result, the Lu family would not care. To put it bluntly, sometimes the Lu family was just a broker. But it depended on their relationship. They did not do business with just anyone. The two men looked a little tired. Their faces were yellow, and they had dark circles under their eyes. Their hair was messy, and they did not even shave. Besides, they were dressed casually. Qin Sheng almost did not recognize them. After all, the last time he saw them, they were so beautiful. The two men were none other than Tan Feng and Zhang Jinlei. They had been waiting for Qin Sheng to return to Xi'an. If Lu Changxi had not warned them not to act rashly, they might have gone to Beijing to beg for Qin Sheng's forgiveness. Qin Sheng already knew what he meant, but he still asked, "Brother Lu, what do you mean?" Just now, Lu Changxi was just testing Qin Sheng's bottom line. If Qin Sheng was very resistant, he would definitely not take the risk. He did not want these trivial things to affect his relationship with Qin Sheng. However, Qin Sheng's attitude was not tough, so Lu Changxi asked Tan Feng and Zhang Jinlei to come over. Lu Changxi said happily, "Qin Sheng, I don't mean anything. Don't think too much about it. I have no choice." The Tan family and the Zhang family invited an old leader to be their lobbyist. Coincidentally, my old man owes the old leader a favor. That's why I can't be the middleman. But still, you do what you should do. I'm just the middleman. Qin Sheng sneered and said, "Then I understand." Tan Feng and Zhang Jinlei had been tortured enough during this period of time. The business of the Tan and Zhang families had been greatly affected by the suppression of the Lu family. In addition, a lot of things in the past had been dug up. Now it could be said that they were in constant trouble. Finally, they spent a lot of money to talk to the Lu family, which led to the meeting today. The meaning of the Lu family was very clear. They knew better than anyone what they had done. It wasn't the Lu family who wanted to mess with them, but there was someone more powerful who wanted to deal with them. Seeing Tan Feng and Zhang Jinlei walking over, Hao Lei was very unhappy. He didn't expect Lu Changxi to do these things behind their back. These two were the culprits who caused Auntie Wang's car accident and hospitalization, and their father was the mastermind behind the incident that put Uncle Lin in prison. Feng and Tan and Zhang. Tan and Zhang and Tan and Zhang and Chonglei. And Zhang. And Tan and of a Tang. No matter how much Qin Sheng wanted them and the families behind them to pay, as long as it was within the range that they could bear, they would agree, as long as Qin Sheng could let them go. When Tan Feng and Zhang Jinlei walked over, Lu Changxi told the manager standing not far away not to let anyone disturb them. The manager immediately called 2 security guards to stand at the bottom of the stairs. "Brother Lu." Tan Feng and Zhang Jinlei respectfully lowered their heads and greeted Lu Changxi. No one could afford to offend Lu Changxi, and everyone had to curry favor with him. Lu Changxi held the red wine glass and chuckled. "Greet Master Qin." "Master Qin." Tan Feng and Zhang Jinlei bowed and greeted Lu Changxi. This time, they were even more respectful than they had been to Lu Changxi. Qin Sheng replied on purpose, "Master Qin, long time no see. How have you been?" Tan Feng was not as thick-skinned as Zhang Jinlei. It could be seen from what happened last time. Zhang Jinlei was flexible, while Tan Feng was still not mature enough. This time, Zhang Jinlei said, "We are just ordinary people in front of Master Qin. We can't afford to be called Master Qin." Qin Xing replied disapprovingly, "Is that so? I still remember that some time ago the two young masters showed off their prowess. Don't mention how awe-inspiring they were. I was so scared." Zhang Jinlei quickly replied, "Master Qin, we offended you in the past. I hope you can be magnanimous and forgive us. As long as Master Qin is willing, we can apologize to you in any way." Qin Xing threw the cigarette but on the ground and made things difficult again. "Kneel and kowtow to apologize, okay?" This was a blatant humiliation. Not to mention Tan Feng and Zhang Jinlei, even an ordinary person would not be able to endure such humiliation. This was a bar full of customers. If they really knelt down, it would be a big joke. Moreover, what happened last time had made Tan Feng and Zhang Jinlei extremely humiliated. Every time they mentioned it, they would be full of hatred towards Qin Xing. Today, Qin Xing was like this again. It was like digging flesh and picking bones from their wound. However, Zhang Jinlei knelt down without hesitation. Not only were the others shocked, but even Qin Xing was a little surprised. He did not expect Zhang Jinlei to be so determined. Zhang Jinlei knelt down. Tan Feng's face looked terrible. This was a bar, there were customers everywhere. There might be acquaintances. If this was spread out, how could they establish a reputation in Xi'an? They were afraid that they would really become a joke. But what else could they do? The man in front of them controlled the life and death of their families. If this man did not intend to let them go, they would not have the courage and strength to resist at all. They could only wait for death. If the entire clan was finished, then what would he, Tan Feng, amount to? Therefore, after hesitating for a moment, Tan Feng also knelt down in front of Qin Xing. He stared at Qin Xing, meaning to say, "We have already knelt down, what else do you want?" Lu Changxi was not surprised at all. The Lin family had almost been destroyed by the two families. Lin Shi had been in prison for so long, while they had been enjoying their lives. Now that Qin Xing had returned, what else could they do other than do? Lu Changxi was not surprised at all. In Beijing, such a big storm, the Qin family could withstand it. What were their two families? "Yo, I did not expect that you two young masters would kneel so firmly. I really have a whole new level of respect for you," Qin Xing said sarcastically. Then he said, "Then tell me, what do you want from me today?" Hearing this, Zhang Jinlei and Tan Feng's faces changed. Their eyes were full of surprise, which meant that today's kneeling was worth it. It meant that Qin Xing had the intention to let them go. Zhang Jinlei said directly, "As long as you can let us go, we are willing to pay any price." Willing to pay any price? After hearing this, Qin Xing laughed and said, "Your so-called willing to pay any price is nothing more than money. It seems that for rich people like you, money can do anything. Unfortunately, you are wrong this time because our family is richer than yours. The total wealth of your two families is not even a fraction of our families. Why do you think I want your money? If money can do anything, I will buy your lives with money, okay? Anyway, you said that you are willing to pay any price. Let me see if you are really willing to pay any price." Qin Xing's words made Zhang Jinlei and Tan Feng's hope, which had just been ignited, fall to the bottom in an instant. Qin Xing's words were really arrogant, and he said such words in front of Lu Changxi. It seemed that, as Lu Changxi had said, they were really nothing compared to Qin Xing. Tan Feng gritted his teeth and said, "Master Qin, what should we do so that you will let us go?" Qin Xing said bluntly, and continued to humiliate Tan Feng and Zhang Jinlei. "Children should pay their father's debt. Unfortunately, no matter what you do, I will not let you go. Don't think too highly of yourself. I don't even care about your elders, let alone you." Zhang Jinlei's face was gloomy, and he did not say anything. No one could see his expression, but everyone knew that he was very angry. Qin Shing humiliated them again, but he still did not intend to let them go. It seemed that he would not stop until one of them died. Tan Feng was more direct. He stared at Qin Shing fiercely, as if he wanted to tear Qin Shing into pieces. Qin Shing squinted and said, "What? Do you hate me so much that you want to kill me? Similarly, I also hate you. In the past, when you were in power, you could toy around with the Lin family. Now that you've lost your power, you obediently admit defeat, thinking that you can be forgiven if you kneel and kowtow. But who will compensate for the pain that the Qin family has suffered? So, it's impossible for me to forgive you so easily. If you're not convinced, you can do whatever you want. I'm just afraid that you can't bear the price, because in my eyes, you're really nothing." Qin Shing said the last sentence word by word, which was extremely heart-wrenching. Lu Changshi had seen Qin Shing's arrogance, but he still did not feel sad or happy. This was the law of the survival of the fittest in this society. Didn't the Tan family and the Zhang family deal with the Lin family in the same way? They deserved all this, so they could not blame others. It was not that he would not say anything good to them. His task was just to be a middleman. Zhang Jinlei stood up slowly. This man was indeed a bit capable to be in such a position. To be honest, Tan Feng was not as good as his brother. Tan Feng also stood up. He was still so unwilling to give up. He wanted to kill Qin Shing right now. However, he was very clear that what could he do? If he killed Qin Shing, his whole big family would have to die with him. Qin Shing's background was the most terrifying. Zhang Jinlei said calmly, "Master Qin, we are sorry for what happened in the past, so we can't blame others for what happened today." Qin Shing shrugged. Zhang Jinlei bowed slightly and said, "Master Qin, thank you." Then he said to Lu Changshi, "Brother Lu, thank you." After that, Zhang Jinlei was ready to leave with Tan Feng. At this time, Qin Shing said, "Let your father come, we can talk about it." Chapter 563. Murder and plunder. Zhang Jinlei and Tan Feng had tried their best. However, Qin Shing still did not intend to let them off. Obviously, they had come for nothing today. Even if they had established a relationship with the Lu family, it would be useless. Zhang Jinlei and Tan Feng had done their best. Zhang Jinlei and Tan Feng were extremely depressed and lost. Tan Feng hated Qin Shing more and more, but he could not do anything to Qin Shing. This kind of feeling was too suffocating and kept up. Although Zhang Jinlei also hated Qin Shing, he felt more powerless. He had never felt this way in Xi'an, nor had he been in such a situation. Zhang Jinlei had never felt this way. Therefore, Zhang Jinlei was relieved. He couldn't continue to beg for mercy. If he did, he wouldn't have any backbone at all. But who would have thought that Qin Shing would suddenly say this when they were about to leave? Zhang Jinlei and Tan Feng turned around and stared at Qin Shing thoughtfully. They did not know what Qin Shing meant. Could it be that if their fathers were here, there would be a chance to ease the tension? Whoever owed the debt should pay it back. You don't have the right to ask them to come to me. There's only one chance, and my patience is limited. Qin Shing snorted coldly. After he finished speaking, he waved his hand, indicating that they could leave. Later, Qin Shing figured out what had happened in the past. The two old bastards had set up a trap to frame Uncle Lin. Now that he had come back to take revenge, the two old bastards hid behind him and let their son deal with it. How could there be such a good thing in the world? Besides, it would be more interesting to meet these two old bastards. It would be more interesting than dealing with Zhang Jinlei and Tan Feng. After Tan Feng and Zhang Jinlei left, Lu Changshi said somewhat embarrassedly, "Qin Shing, it's been hard on you this time. I hope you can understand. I'll drink up." After he finished speaking, Lu Changshi raised his cup and drained it in one gulp. He had given Qin Shing enough face so that Qin Shing would not feel unhappy. Although Qin Sheng had some complaints about what had happened tonight, since things had come to this, he could only beat Lu Changshi at his own game. He could not really be angry with Lu Changshi. It was not necessary. Let's drink up, let's not talk about this. Qin Sheng patted Lu Changshi's shoulder and said with a smile. In the Gobi Desert in the northwest of Gansu, after driving for another hour, Nangong finally found the small town that Bach had mentioned. Rather than calling it a small town, it was more like a supply station in the vast Gobi Desert. There were only a dozen dilapidated buildings. Although the Sparrow was small, it had everything it needed. There were gas stations, supermarkets, restaurants, and hotels in this small town. However, it looked a little cold. After all, this was not a tourist route or a main road. Nangong drove the Land Cruiser to the door of the hotel and said, "It is not a good idea to stay here for the night and continue tomorrow." "Okay, but let's find a place to eat first." "I'm starving," Bach said, patting his stomach. This trip was really a torture. When he went to Beijing in the future, he must reward himself well. Nangong glared at Bahi. If not for the fact that only Bahi knew where Mr. Ding was, Nangong would never have brought this burden and naggy person along. He would have angered her to death along the way. Fate Inn, this name was really vulgar, but there was only one inn in the entire town, and there was nowhere else to go, so he could only make do with it. Nangong and He walked into a shabby-looking hotel. At the front desk was a fat woman who looked to be more than 200 pounds. The woman was lying down with wavy hair, and was holding 2 chicken drumsticks in her hand. Her hands were full of grease, and it was really unsightly. "Boss, do you still have a room?" Bach took the initiative to ask. The chubby woman didn't even raise her head. She only focused on eating the drumstick, as if someone wanted to snatch it from her. She snorted and said, "There's only one room left. 500 a night. Hot water is provided." Bach was surprised and said, "What? There's only one room left? This shabby place actually costs 500 a night? Why don't they just rob a bank?" 500 a night, if you want to stay or not. If you rob a bank, it's probably more than 500, young man. The fat woman looked up at Bahi and said with a face full of smiles. But the smile was really horrible. Coupled with the grease stains on her mouth, Bahi almost vomited. Nangong didn't want to compromise and said to Bahi, "Get a room, I'll sleep on the bed and you sleep on the floor. We'll leave at dawn." Although hearing the word, "get a room," Bahi knew that it was impossible for him to fantasize. He would definitely be beaten half to death by Nangong. Moreover, he was already very sleepy, so he retorted, "Why? Why do you sleep on the bed and I sleep on the floor? You're not my wife." Nangong stared at Bahi fiercely. It seemed that Bahi was going to suffer again. Bahi was unmoved and there was no room for compromise. He didn't like this tomboy and didn't want to marry her. Moreover, he had been bullied by her many times, so why should he give in to her? The fat woman raised the drumstick and said with a face full of gossip, "What's wrong?" The couple quarreled. "Husband and wife, we should tolerate each other. It's not a big deal." "Who's quarreling with him, her?" Nangong and Bahi shouted almost at the same time. The fat woman had a look of understanding on her face. She smiled and said, "Then are you going to stay or not? If you want to stay, hurry up and pay up. If not, get out of here as soon as possible. Don't disturb my business." Nangong stared at Bahi. If Bahi dared to say no, he would be beaten to death on the spot. So Bahi could only say the word "stay" in a weak voice. Nangong quickly took out 500 yuan for the fat woman. It was really a rare thing. Such a price could be used to stay in a 5-star hotel in many cities. What kind of environment was that? The fat woman took the money with her greasy hands and then took out the key from the drawer. She threw it to Nangong and Bahi and said, "The room on the far right on the 2nd floor is your room. There is a hot kettle inside and the TV can only be watched by local channels. If you need anything, come downstairs and look for me." After taking the key, Nangong and Bach went upstairs to their room. The room had a heavy musty smell. It was likely that no one had stayed in it for a long time. That fat woman really wanted to rip them off. Even if she wanted $1,000, Nangong would still stay here. The room was naturally very simple. There was only a big bed and 2 chairs, as well as an old TV. The two put their luggage on the bed and brought all their valuables with them. They were ready to go out for dinner. The restaurant called Jiang, who was very close to the hotel. After all, the town was only so big. It only took a few minutes to walk to the end. There were 2 other tables of people in the restaurant. Nangong and Ba he casually found a place to sit down. Why do I feel that this place is a little scary? Everyone is a little weird. I heard that in this kind of unregulated place there are often murders and robberies. Should we not stay here? Bach muttered in a low voice because everyone was looking at them, including the 2 tables next to them. They did not look like good people and had a fierce look on their faces. He had heard many people say that murderers or those who ran for their lives liked to come to this kind of place. Nangong said disapprovingly, "Let's eat." How could she not notice the strangeness of this place? From the moment she entered this place, she had been observing her surroundings, especially after entering the hotel. The fat lady boss looked silly, but there were subtle flaws everywhere, such as the scars on the back of her hands, the calluses between her thumb and index finger, and her eyes that were always flickering. At this time, it was impossible to leave even if they wanted to. They had to be careful tonight. If there was an accident and they lost their lives here, it would be really not worth it. A shifty-eyed waiter ran over with a menu in his hand. He squinted and asked, "Handsome man, beautiful woman, what do you want to eat? We are the most famous restaurant within 100 miles. It will definitely suit your taste." Bahi almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He replied, "Big brother, I guess there is only one restaurant within 100 miles. Even if you want to compete with others, no one is willing to compete with you." Nangong stared at Bahi and said, "You talk too much. Hurry up and order." Bahi was too lazy to refute. He picked up the menu and glanced at it. He directly scolded, "Damn, a tomato scrambled egg is 100 yuan, a garlic cucumber is 80 yuan, a kung pao chicken is 280 yuan. Why don't you rob a bank?" It was this sentence again. It could be seen how shocked Bahi was. This broken place was really crazy. Those who did not know better would think that they had come to a super resort and had a sumptuous meal on land and sea. The waiter laughed and said, "Handsome man, didn't you say that there is only one restaurant within 100 miles? The raw materials are scarce and it is too difficult to get the goods in. Moreover, the chef's salary is very high." "I understand." Nangong still did not talk nonsense. She directly ordered 2 meat dishes and 1 vegetable dish, plus 2 bowls of rice and 2 bottles of water. It cost a total of 800 yuan. Even when she was in Beijing, she had never eaten such a cheap meal. "I will never come to this place again in my life." Bahi let out a long sigh. He remembered that it was not like this when he came a few years ago. Why was it so cheap now? It seemed that these people were not the same people from back then. Hence, Bahi became more and more suspicious. Although the restaurant was very cheap, the efficiency was not bad. It did not take long for 3 dishes to be served, and the taste was not bad. It was not as cheap as he had imagined. However, if they knew that the head chef had killed people before, they would be afraid. After dinner, Nangong and Bahi paid the bill and left immediately. The guests who were drinking at the table next to them began to whisper. A group of 4 men, all familiar people in this small town. Nangong and Bahi were the second group of foreigners who came to this small town today. "Brother Huang, when are we going to do it tonight?" A man with a scar on his face asked in a low voice. He looked like he had not taken a bath for a long time. His whole body smelled rancid, and he was afraid that there were lice in his hair. Brother Huang, who was sitting opposite, clenched his teeth and said elegantly, The night is dark and the moon is high. It is the right time to kill. This morning, someone came to them and said that they wanted them to deal with the man and woman who passed by here. If they killed them, they would be paid $1 million. This was like a pie falling from the sky. Of course, they would not miss it. They had been waiting for the whole day, for fear that they would miss this deal. After the sky turned dark, they thought that they would not have a chance. They did not expect that the man and woman would really appear. Brother, I don't have any other request. I just want the woman just now. Can you let me have a good time first? A skinny monkey next to Brother Huang said with a cheeky smile. Brother Huang laughed and scolded, "Look at you. After we finish this job, I will take you to play with a foreign woman." Don't even think about this woman. I heard that her skills are not simple. After the skinny monkey heard this, his face was full of disappointment. However, there was a dirty thought in his heart. The night was getting darker and darker. The lights in the small town gradually dimmed. In the end, there were only a few street lights that were still on. However, the moon tonight was very round, and it shone as bright as day. In the hotel, Ba He and Nangong had already laid down to rest. Nangong, who was sleeping on the bed, did not take off his clothes. He was not afraid of Ba He and the others. Ba He spread the quilt on the ground and fell asleep not long after lying down. He even started snoring. Chapter 564. Chapter 565 of Histor. They couldn't leave. This was a desolate and uninhabited desert. Having such a strange town was already very strange. Coupled with the messy people in this town, anyone who came here would have to be careful. Even ordinary people would not dare to come here. It had to be said that Nangong and Ba He's guts were quite big. The fat woman from the hotel, the few guests in the small restaurant, including the owner and waiters of the restaurant, none of them looked like ordinary people. Nangong, who had been in the society for many years, had already observed them. Even when they were eating just now, Nangong only took 2 chopsticks before stopping. It was better to be safe than sorry. Anyone could see that there was no business here all year round. It was impossible to earn money here, so why did these people stay here? Who would be willing to waste their lives in such a desolate place? There were only 2 possibilities. The first was that they had nowhere else to go and could only stay here. For example, they were wanted criminals or people who ran away from debt. The second was that these were all illusions and there were other unknown secrets here. Just after 2 o'clock in the morning, the movement in the corridor and outside the window woke Nangong up. Nangong quietly got up and carefully went to the side of Bok, who was sleeping on the floor. He thought that Bok was sleeping very soundly. Unexpectedly, when he was about to wake him up, he found that Bok had already woken up and was listening to the movement outside with his eyes wide open. Shoo! Bok stretched out his hand to Nangong and at the same time signaled that there was movement outside. Nangong was lying next to Bok. His posture was somewhat indecent, but he couldn't care less and asked in a low voice, "You didn't sleep? Do I dare to sleep?" Bok said angrily, "If I fell asleep, I'm afraid that when I wake up, I'm afraid that I would have already met the king of hell. Even a dog can see that there is something wrong with this group of people." Nangong stared at Bok, who was still being talkative. He really didn't know if this man was also this glib in front of a man. He probably didn't dare to do that. After coming out, he let go of himself. Act according to the situation, Nangong said to Bok in a deep voice, and then walked in the direction of the door. In the corridor, the group of people whom Nangong and Bok had met in the restaurant were tiptoeing toward the room. Behind them was the chubby hotel owner. The woman said with some dissatisfaction, "De Huang, can't you give me more? I know they gave you $1 million yuan. De Huang, can't you give me more? Sister Fatty, be content. I'm just asking you to open the door. Do you think I'm asking you to kill people?" Otherwise, I'll change my mind later and I won't even give you the 50,000 yuan, Brother Huang said coldly in the restaurant. Who asked this fat woman to be so greedy and insist on asking for 100,000 yuan? If it were not for the fact that his man was quite powerful and made him somewhat fearful, he would not have given her a single cent. The thin monkey-like man next to him still did not give up and asked, Brother Huang, are you really not going to give me a chance? Can I pay you 50,000 yuan? As long as I can have a good time once, 50,000 yuan is worth it. Brother Huang scolded angrily, You're still thinking about this? Can you be a little more promising? What kind of woman can't you have sex with? What's so good about this woman? Can't you control your 2 kilograms of flesh down there? Feeling that his brother was really angry, the thin monkey-like man had no choice but to shut up obediently, in case something went wrong and Brother Huang took it out on him. He knew that Brother Huang could be ruthless, and he had a few lives on his back. At this time, they had reached the door of the room. Brother Huang gestured for the fat woman to come up and open the door quickly. The fat woman muttered a few words and walked over. She used the spare key to open the door carefully. After a few tries, the door was opened. If it was not for fear of making too much noise, Brother Huang would have kicked the door open. It was totally a decoration. The room was dark, and only the moonlight shone through the window and on the bed. It could be seen that there were 2 people lying under the quilt on the old wooden bed. The fat woman could not help but despise them in her heart. Just now they had put on a good act downstairs, but after entering the room, they were like heavenly thunder and earth fire. Men and women were all erotic creatures. The thin monkey-like man was a little envious of the dark-skinned man. He liked women all his life. It was also because of the woman that he escaped to this place that he could not change his temper. It was a pity that he could only go out a few times every year. Brother Huang stared at the fat woman, and she hurriedly retreated. She was afraid that if she ran too slowly, she would be in trouble. Anyway, she felt that this couple was definitely not simple. Brother Huang waved his hand, and the thin monkey-like man and the scarred man went to the left side. The dull man followed him to the left side. Everyone was holding a weapon in their hand. It was either a bayonet or a machete. Everyone seemed to be ready. Brother Huang winked at the thin monkey-like man. After the thin monkey-like man was ready, he suddenly pulled the quilt open. Without hesitation, everyone slashed at the 2 people under the quilt. However, the scene in front of them shocked them. The man and the woman were not under the quilt. There were only pillows and luggage. The man and woman had long disappeared. The cooked duck had flown away. How could Brother Huang not explode? He shouted angrily, Search for them. I don't believe they can run anywhere. Where were Nangong and Bach? It was impossible for the 2 of them to leave the room. When Brother Huang and the rest were discussing outside, the 2 of them had already camped in 2 blind spots on the wall near the door, waiting for these people to walk into the trap. After the scarred man heard Brother Huang's order, he was ready to turn on the lights. He did not believe that the man and woman could run anywhere. The town was only so big, and there were people everywhere. Moreover, the man and woman's car were parked below. If they ran away in a car, they would probably get lost or die of dehydration in such a big uninhabited area. Moreover, it was already night time. Just when the scarred man turned on the lights, and they were not ready to search, Nangong and Bach did not hesitate to descend from the sky and went straight to the few people below. Nangong's target was Brother Huang. To catch the bandits, first catch the ringleader. Bach's target was Skinny Monkey. He had picked a soft persimmon. Nangong kicked Brother Huang onto the bed. Brother Huang did not even have time to react. Skinny Monkey's side was almost the same. He was kicked directly into the wall by Bach. The sudden change shocked everyone. Brother Huang, who had regained his senses, was ready to turn over and fight back. He did not expect to be tricked by these 2 foreigners. However, what greeted him was a punch. Brother Huang was dizzy and his nose was bleeding. It was obvious that Nangong had used a lot of strength in this punch. The scarred man was the first to react. He took the machete and rushed towards Bok. Bok had been with his Uncle Ah-Man for several years. He had learned a lot from his uncle's driver and bodyguards. He picked up the bayonet that Skinny Monkey had dropped on the ground and rushed towards him. The two of them instantly wrestled with each other. On the other side, the wooden man rushed towards Nangong. As soon as he got close to Nangong, Nangong kicked his armpit. It was so painful that he grimaced. When he rushed forward again, the machete in Nangong's hand was already on Brother Huang's neck. "All of you stop!" Nangong shouted to the crowd. Brother Huang also shouted to the crowd, "All of you stop!" Only then did the other men quickly stop. Just as the knife-scarred man was distracted, He stabbed his knife into the knife-scarred man's shoulder. The knife-scarred man roared out in anger. The group of people outside had already been alerted and were rushing over. Bok also suffered a minor injury. The scarred man's machete scraped his back. However, it was not serious. It was just a very shallow wound. However, their situation was not very good. Bok could only hold the bayonet and protect Nangong. The machete in Nangong's hand had already cut Brother Huang's neck. Blood flowed down from the machete. It could be seen that she was really ruthless. At this moment, Brother Huang looked very embarrassed. It was really a case of going for wool and coming home shorn. He quickly shouted, "Miss, we can discuss this. If you kill me, then you really won't be able to walk out of here." Nangong questioned, "Tell me, who are you? Why do you want to kill us?" "We are just vendors in this town," Brother Huang said casually. Then he made up a lie and said, "At first glance, I can tell that you are rich people who have nothing better to do. You drove a land cruiser and swaggered through the town. From the moment you walked in here, you have already been targeted. I guess we are not the only one." Of course, Nangong did not believe his words. Because they had heard the conversation outside just now, Nangong's machete tightened a little. Brother Huang was immediately scared and said, "Beauty, I'll tell you. Someone spent money to kill you. 1 million to buy 2 of your lives." Brother Huang finally told the truth. If he did not tell the truth, he would die. After Nangong heard it, she could not help but fall into deep thought. She did not expect that there would be such twists and turns. Someone spent money to buy their lives. Who was it? What the f***ck, 1 million for 2 lives. When did my life become so valuable? Bok exclaimed. He did not expect such a thing to happen. It was really exciting. If he knew the truth, he would definitely cry. That was, Nangong's life was worth 1 million. He estimated that it was worth nothing. Nangong asked, "Who's the buyer?" "I don't king know. A group of people suddenly came this morning. They said that you might be passing by here. 1 million to buy your lives. They gave 500,000 as a deposit. After the job is done, they will give the other half." Brother Huang told Nangong everything. He did not want the 1 million now. He just wanted to live. At this time, a lot of people rushed in from outside. When they saw the scene, they were shocked. How could Brother Huang be taken down just like that? He looked a little miserable. It was not good for them to act rashly. Nangong did not believe it and increased the strength of her machete. Brother Huang begged for mercy. "Beauty, sister, madam, I really don't know who they are. I also don't care who they are. As long as they pay me, it's fine. It's too easy for people to die in this unregulated place. If you kill me, you will definitely not be able to walk out of here. If you don't kill me, you might be able to leave safely." Nangong fell into deep thought. This situation was a little tricky. She did not expect that they would run into a thief's nest. It was all Bok's fault for leading the way. Was he a spy? Bok definitely did not know what Nangong was thinking. He was only thinking about how to leave. He did not want to die here. He said in a low voice, "What should we do now?" Nangong thought for a moment and said, "Go out. Drive the car and leave overnight. Nangong immediately drove Brother Huang out. Bok took the backpack and followed behind. Brother Huang was cursing. The others did not dare to stop them and could only make way for them. When they went downstairs, they met a chubby woman. This woman was still eating a chicken leg. She did not seem surprised when she saw this scene. It should be said that she was used to this kind of scene. Just now, when she heard the movement upstairs and the people outside rushing up, she knew that the matter inside must have been ruined. The chubby woman raised the chicken leg and said happily, "Io de Huang, what's wrong? Why are you like this?" Brother Huang stared at the chubby woman and scolded, "Damn fatty, don't take pleasure in my misfortune. Maybe it's you who secretly told me. Don't think that with your man backing you, I won't dare to touch you. Let's talk about it when you're alive first." The chubby woman pouted at Brother Huang. That look was really annoying. Nangong and Bok thought that they could get into the car and leave safely by holding Brother Huang hostage. But when they walked out of the hotel, they realized that it was not that simple. The outside of the hotel was already full of people. It seemed that the whole town had come, and they were all holding weapons in their hands. Chapter 565. Chapter 566 of W.R. Buying Lives. At first, Nangong thought that these people just wanted to kill them and rob them. Who asked her and Bok to drive a Toyota Land Cruiser to this godforsaken place? For these people, it was tantamount to sending sheep into a tiger's mouth. Anyone could see that they were rich people. If they didn't kill them, who else could they kill? If they missed this opportunity, there would be no more. How many rich people could come here in a year? But now, the result was not what she thought, and it was more terrible than she thought. Because someone paid $1 million to buy their lives. Who wanted their lives? Did he want her life or Bok's life? If it was Bok's life, it must be man's enemy. After all, this place was far away from Bok's sphere of influence. If it was her life, it must be the Qin family's enemy. The purpose of this was nothing more than to prevent her from finding Mr. Ding. If she could not find Mr. Ding, then Mr. Ding would not return to Beijing to help her foster father. However, these people obviously wanted to kill her with a borrowed knife and did not want to leave any clues. Fortunately, these people in the town looked fierce, but in fact, they were just a motley crew. They could not withstand a single blow at all. Now she just needed to kidnap Brother Huang and leave. However, now the situation was a little complicated. The movement here had alarmed everyone in the town. It was obviously impossible for them to kidnap Brother Huang and leave. What should she do? Several big lights in the town had been turned on, and the front of the hotel was illuminated as if it was daytime. There were at least 30 or 40 people standing on the road, all holding different weapons in their hand. Nangong also found that some of them were even carrying guns, and behind them were Brother Huang's desperate men. Bok was very nervous and his face looked terrible. What should we do now? We can't leave. Nangong's face was calm, but her brain was spinning rapidly. How could she leave this place safely? If she was alone, it would be easy as long as she could kill her way out. But with Bok, this burden, it would be difficult. The most important thing was that she did not want to waste too much time here. Looking at the people present, Nangong suppressed her anger and snorted. I really didn't expect that I would fall into a thief's nest today. An old man in his 50s slowly walked out from the crowd. The old man's body was stooped, and he looked a bit hunched. His face was covered with wrinkles, but his eyes were filled with killing intent. He said calmly, "Miss, do you really think you can leave this town like this?" Nangong replied directly, "Then I will kill him. It's good to kill him. That way it will save us a lot of trouble." "This brat has caused me a lot of trouble," the old man replied disapprovingly. Most of these people were involved in murder cases. It was a blessing for them to be able to live until now, so it was not a loss. Upon hearing this, Brother Huang's heart sank. He shouted in a hurry, Mr. Li, save me. I don't want to die. Why didn't you think of this when you took the money? You deserve it. Next time you reincarnate into a better family. Don't be so miserable, said the old man that Brother Huang called Boss Li disdainfully. Most of the people living in the small town did not deserve to die, including him. Nangong frowned and questioned, "It seems that you are also involved in today's matter. Then I will kill him first, and then I will kill you." Miss, don't talk big. You also need to have the ability to do so. 2 fists are no match for many hands. All of us have lived on the edge of a knife. If you really want to fight with your life on the line, you can try. Boss Li laughed. The others laughed even more presumptuously. Someone actually dared to say such words here, and it was even a woman. She really did not put them in her eyes. The situation was very disadvantageous to Nangong and Ba He, and it was true. In the face of so many desperados, the possibility of Nangong and Ba He leaving safely was very small. The fat woman held a chicken leg in her hand and leaned against the door of the hotel. She laughed and said, "Miss, who asked you to offend someone? Someone spent money to buy your life. Tell me, how can we let a fat sheep like you leave? Besides, even if no one spent money to buy your life, how can we miss a business that came to our door?" After saying that, she laughed out loud as if she had said a very funny joke. But it was really too funny. Ba He no longer had any hope. This time he went out was really unlucky. If he had known this would happen, he would not have followed this woman out. He asked casually, "Then tell me, how can you let us go?" "Here, only money matters. You can do whatever you want with money," Boss Li said with a smile. When talking about money, he was really a miser, as if he had gotten into money. When Nangong and Ba He heard this, they instantly felt a lot more relaxed, because they did not have to fight with their lives on the line. As long as they had money, it would be fine. And they were not short of money. So Nangong sneered and said, "I thought it would be very difficult to leave here. It turns out that you only care about money. Then tell me, how much money can we leave?" She really did not want to be entangled with these people and waste too much time here. As long as she could leave safely and find Mr. Ding smoothly, then she would naturally have a way to come back and take revenge. She would not accept this loss so easily, nor would she give the money so easily. Boss Li said truthfully, "Someone paid 1 million to buy your life, then the money you pay for your life must not be less than 1 million. Otherwise, I will not be able to convince the others." So Nangong was too lazy to talk nonsense and said disdainfully, "Just tell me the price, don't talk nonsense. 1 million for 1 life, that is 2 million. You can leave directly." Boss Li thought for a moment and said. When everyone heard this price, they almost exclaimed out loud. This was not a small number. Nangong laughed and said, "You are really asking for an exorbitant price." Ba He was shocked, and almost said his catchphrase again. "Why don't you go rob a bank?" This was 2 million. He definitely did not have it, so he could only call his uncle. There is no other way. Who asked you to make such a big noise? So, can you afford this price? Boss Li asked directly. Nangong said without hesitation, "Deal, how do you pay? Cash or bank transfer is fine. As long as the money arrives, we will let you leave immediately. If you want to stay here for 1 night, I promise you will be fine." Boss Li said so. Of course, he would let these 2 people go after seeing the money. As for his promise to Nangong and Ba He, with his status here, absolutely no one dared to touch it. Nangong thought it might be a big battle, but he did not expect that it could be solved with money. So it was meaningless to hold Brother Huang hostage. Besides, Boss Li also said that even if they killed Brother Huang, they could not leave, so Nangong directly let Brother Huang go, which was also a sign of sincerity. Then, Nangong said to the old manly, "Card number, transfer." "You believe them just like that?" Ba He said incredulously. As for why Nangong was so rich, Ba He was not surprised. After all, Nangong was a member of the Qin family in Beijing. His uncle had already said that the Qin family was rich and powerful. They were a powerful family in Beijing. Nangong snorted coldly and said, "Then what do you think we should do?" Once the money was paid, it was up to these people to decide whether to let them go or not. If they really did not let them go and wanted to kill them to silence them, she had no choice but to fight to the death. However, as long as the money was in the account, with this clue, even if they died, there would be people who would avenge them. Whether it was the Qin family or Ah Man, they all had this ability. Boss Lee did not expect the woman in front of him to agree so directly. She did not bargain at all. If she had bargained, he would still have room to retreat. It was really an unexpected fortune. If he knew this would happen, he would have asked for more. But now that the deal had been made, he would not go back on his words. This was the foundation of his foothold here. Who asked these people to be the most loyal and trustworthy? The next thing was very simple. Nangong and Ba He came to the restaurant just now. Boss Lee was the behind-the-scenes boss of this restaurant. He gave Nangong a bank card number. Nangong directly called Beijing and asked them to transfer 2 million to this card number. It did not take long for the money to be transferred directly. Boss Lee had also called to confirm it. Suddenly there was 2 million more in the card. Boss Lee was so happy that he could not close his mouth. He said to Nangong, "Miss, this time I offended you. But on this journey of 200 miles to the west, as long as you encounter danger, you can directly tell me your name. Absolutely no one dares to touch you." Nangong did not speak. She did not expect that there was such a place in the west. But for her, things would definitely not end like this. It was just that she did not have the energy to care about these things now. Mr. Ding's matter was the most important. Boss Lee was not angry. He smiled, revealing his black and yellow teeth. "Miss, are you going to stay here for one night or leave overnight?" Nangong said casually, "Leave overnight." "Then I wish you a safe journey." Boss Lee chuckled. Nangong hesitated for a moment and opened her mouth again. "If I give you 1 million more, can you tell me who on earth wants to kill us?" Boss Lee really did not expect that the woman in front of him was so rich. It seemed that 2 or 3 million was not a lot of money to her. He chuckled and said, 1 million, tut tut, she is really rich. It is not that I do not want to earn this money, but we really do not know those foreigners, so there is nothing we can do. Nangong squinted her eyes, half believing and half doubting. She simply did not ask any more and directly prepared to leave with Ba He. Boss Lee and the others stood up to see them off. Brother Huang still had some resentment towards Nangong, but he did not dare to act rashly. It was not until Nangong and Ba He got in the car and left that the others returned to the restaurant to divide the booty. This woman was so rich that many people planned to kidnap her. But they also knew Boss Lee's way of doing things, so they did not dare to act rashly. As for whether this woman would come to take revenge in the future, they did not care. Anyway, after taking the money, they would run away for a period of time. After leaving the town, Ba He said somewhat indignantly, "They scolded us. Are we just going to let it go? 2 million, that is 2 million. What's more, they wanted to kill us." Nangong snorted coldly. "Mr. Ding's matter is more important. We will talk about it later." The reason why Nangong wanted to leave overnight was that she was afraid that there would be more changes. After all, they still did not know who wanted to kill them. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.